bespoke radio for the masses.
Headline edition, July 8, 1947. The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army.
If the game is rigged, change the game. Game changer.
I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
This is Fade to Black with your host, Jimmy Church, on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
I need your help to get to the year 1985.
You're listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
Oh, yeah. Fade to Black. Bespoke radio. For the masses. How you doing? I'm adjusting my mic. Today's Tuesday, September 20th. 264 days into the new year, just 102 days left. We are live from a bunker somewhere in downtown Burbank, California, and I would like to welcome everybody listening all around the world, all across the United States, hither and thither, to and fro, back and forth, up and down, east and west, north and south, far and near. It's Fade to Black, man. For KJCR, the Game Changer Network, and KGRA, the Planet. I'm your so humble host, Jimmy Church. What is cracking, everybody? Let's do this. Tonight, yeah, you know what's happening tonight. Richard Allen Miller is here. Yeah, man. We've got a lot to talk about with the good doctor tonight. But we're going to talk about time travel and amongst other things. We're going to talk about the world of Dr. Richard Allen Miller. It's always amazing. Great conversation. Tomorrow night, very special surprise guest. We had to pull this in and pull this off. Jim Mars is going to be here. And we're going to talk about the events in New York City, New Jersey. We're also going to go back a couple of weeks to the SpaceX Falcon X explosion. Let's just call it that, the explosion, and what he has found out about that. So that is tomorrow night. Of course, we're going to talk about the election, and we'll get some politics in. We have to. It's Jim Mars. Thursday night is Fader Night with John Rappaport and his No More Fake News. I like saying that. Rappaport and his No More Fake Newsroom. Followed by Open Lines all night long. The call-in number is 323-825-5045. Follow us on Twitter at JChurchRadio. If you have TweetDeck, you know what to do. Hashtag F2B is the sandbox. Facebook, YouTube, everything is Fade to Black. Jimmy Church Radio, you know what to do. Go do it. Follow, like, and subscribe. You can email throughout the show tonight. Jimmy at jimmychurchradio.com. All right, let's get a few things out of the way really quick. Oh, tomorrow night also joining Jim Mars to open the show tomorrow night. It's going to be Ronnie McMullen, and he's going to be here to not only discuss Life Change Tea and you and your health, but current events, and he's got a couple of things that he wants to discuss. And I said, absolutely. So he will be joining us tomorrow night to warm up the show. David Icke is here in the U.S. I did a recap of David Icke last night. Thank you for all of the emails today. All right, you know who you are. Thank you for that, and thank you for letting me vent last night. And, okay, David Icke is going to be at the Craneway Pavilion this Saturday in San Francisco. That is on the 24th. Do go and see that show. If you are in San Francisco, go. That's all I have to say. Go to the show. It is a commitment, and you will walk away enlightened. That's the best way that I can put it. Go and check it out. It is this Saturday, the 24th, Craneway Pavilion in Richmond, up in San Francisco. Click on the banner at jimmychurchradio.com for tickets and info, and there you go. All right, Ronnie McMullen's going to be here tomorrow, Life Change Tea, and to get the tea.com, to get the tea.com, click on the banner over at Jimmy Church Radio. Just mention Jimmy when you order, either over the phone or online, and you will get free shipping. Ronnie loves this audience so much, and the support that this show gets from you through Ronnie is amazing. So thank you, everybody. Ronnie loves all of you, and I think he's got the radio addiction too as well. And I saw it coming, and there you go. All right, Studio Dome Fader Not Special, yes. Everybody out there that has ordered, how great of a company Studio Dome is. Their Fader Not Special is a hi-fi TWS true wireless stereo Bluetooth technology, 2 USB-B2 speakers in a hard shell case, power cables, everything that you need for just $129. That is everything all in and free shipping. Just use the promo code JCRTWS. All right, let's get the show cracking. Happy birthday to Sophia Loren. Is 82 years old today. Happy birthday, Sophia. Also today, George R. Martin. Today is 68. Yeah, that Game of Thrones dude. And I thought that he might have made a pile of money off of Game of Thrones and stuff. And he does pretty well. But not what you would think. I just kind of looked it up today, and I was kind of surprised. But nonetheless, he's comfortable. Lives in New Mexico and drives an old Mazda RX-7. George R. Martin today is 68. Happy birthday. On this day in history in 1963, it happened. The speech. Kennedy proposes a joint mission to the moon. And by 1969, the speech happened on this day in 1963. We all know what happened a month later. Fader fact. This is a good one. The last English woman tried for witchcraft in the UK, right? The last English woman tried for witchcraft in the UK was convicted in 1944. Oh, man. All right. Let's just let that one go. All right. I need somebody over in Great Britain right now to explain that one for me. I mean, Alan Turing's bad enough, man, but witchcraft in 1944. All right. Tonight, Richard Allen Miller is here. We are going to discuss time travel and the crazy, nutty world that is Richard Allen Miller, one of the smartest, brightest people that we know, one of the best guests that we have on this show consistently. He is back tonight. Richard Allen Miller, Ram, is here. Tomorrow night, Jim Mars is going to join us. We have to talk about what went down in New York City and New Jersey over the weekend and what is going on with that currently. And also, we're going to jump back a couple of weeks and talk about SpaceX and that explosion out at Cape Canaveral. Thursday night is another Fader night. Open lines, John Rappaport, and his No More Fake newsroom. All right. Now, we've got a couple of weird things that are going down. And the U.S. today announced the White House announced today that the preliminary conclusion is that Russian warplanes bombed an aid convoy yesterday and a warehouse belonging to the Syrian Arab Red Crescent. Okay? The aid convoy was hit last night in the area of Urum al-Kubra, west of Aleppo, prompting the United Nations to halt its aid operations in Syria. The International Committee of the Red Cross said that around 20 civilians were killed, as well as the director of the Red Crescent's Urum al-Kubra branch, Omar Barakat. And the aid was intended for the area of eastern Aleppo, where an estimated 250,000 civilians are starving to death. They have no medicine. They've got no water. And it's a bad, bad situation. And the ceasefire it appears to now, have ended. And the efforts, how do I say this without getting totally pissed off? The efforts of trying to get to these 250,000 civilians, a few trucks got through before yesterday, and some aid, but it's 250,000 civilians, right? And the children and everything else. It's tragic. And this is the problem that I have, because the United States made this announcement today, said that Russian warplanes bombed them. There were also reports that Syrian helicopters were dropping barrel bombs, right? Okay. Well, today on RT, the Russian propaganda website, says that Russian and Syrian warplanes did not launch airstrikes on that aid convoy that was attacked en route to Aleppo. And this comes directly from the Russian Defense Ministry, the MOD, the head of the MOD. The ministry added that only the militants who control the area had information regarding the location of the convoy. The defense ministry said that the Russian military had been looking at video footage from the scene and that there was no sign that the convoy was being targeted by shells or an airstrike, that there were no craters in the ground and so forth. The Russians also said that they had escorted the convoy, followed them with drones to a certain point that was predetermined, and then they cut off and let the convoy continue. And they took the drones off, which I'm not buying into. I'm not buying into either story. I'm not buying into the United States here, and I'm not buying into the Russian story. They're completely on the opposite sides of the fence. And I'm sorry to say that both of them know what happened, and I don't know who's at fault. I'm going to say this, and this is what makes me angry with this, that both sides are at fault. They're both completely 100% at fault. What are you doing, a convoy that large? And I watched some drone footage today of the convoy before it was struck. This thing was huge. It was huge. Right, 20, 30 semi-trucks, tractor trailers, back to back, rolling through. I mean, this was a huge convoy. What is this convoy doing with civilians, right, aid workers, doing unescorted? Right? It just doesn't make any sense. So they're both at fault. Both Russia... For Russia to say that they had drones there, but they pulled them off, and now they don't know what happened, that's BS, complete BS. Both sides, the United States knows what happened, Russia knows what happened. What was that convoy doing without an escort into Aleppo? A United Nations escort, something. Now, this is the other issue. There are witnesses and survivors to this that are going to start talking. They're going to say exactly what happened. And it frustrates me. And the victims are the 250,000 civilians that are there. The children, the women that are just, starving to death. It's just not cool. It's not cool at all. So there you go. And to have both media camps, both Russian and the United States, be completely on the opposite sides of the fence here, right? Somebody is lying, and it doesn't matter. They should have been escorted in. There you go. Teleportation. 2 separate teams of scientists funded by the Pentagon's research arm, DARPA, have revealed significant breakthroughs in the field of quantum teleportation that could have a major impact on cybersecurity and encryption. Now, quantum teleportation is something that I talk about on this show quite often. And we know what it is. It's a process by which quantum information can be transmitted from one place to another. And they've been trying to prove that it is possible. 2 separate DARPA-funded studies by physicists based in China, that's right, DARPA-funded China, and Calgary, Canada, have now confirmed that not only is quantum teleportation a real phenomenon, but they also demonstrated that it's a workable technology that could possibly build up an unhackable quantum communication system that could span great distances. Now, however, the breakthrough doesn't mean that, that the real deal Star Trek sci-fi style human teleportation is any closer, as the photons aren't actually disappearing from one place and appearing in another. Instead, it's the information that's being teleported through a phenomenon called quantum entanglement, which, as you know, Albert Einstein called spooky action at a distance, right? According to the strange world of quantum mechanics, some particles can be entangled, meaning that what happens to one particle will immediately affect the other, no matter how far apart they are. Vast distances. Vast. Using that property, quantum teleportation instantly transfers the state of one quantum particle to another without sending the particle itself. Think about this. And without anything physical passing between them. This process is what they're calling teleportation. And I get it. It's honest. Because the initial message is destroyed and only the information gets teleported from one place to another. It's interesting, isn't it? It's real. It's almost, it's like magic, right? But it's real. The experiments, however, this is where I'm going to bum you out. Send only a very limited amount of information. About 17 photons a minute. You remember your old 14.4 modem? That compared to this is lightning speed. But anyway, but it's working. The research was funded in part by DARPA's QuINES and information and photon programs. The QuINES program was set up to help prevent adversaries hacking Department of Defense information. That was the whole point of all of this. The biggest application of quantum teleportation is likely to be in the encrypting information area. As the 2 photons communicate with each other via quantum entanglement, it is much harder for an outsider to read that information, if not completely impossible, because you would have to have some pretty crack equipment to pull this off. In order to decrypt a message, a hacker would need both the key, of course, right, which is sent over the regular internet, but you also need the entangled photons themselves. And back to the DARPA end of things. DARPA is interesting. DARPA's interest these days, you would think, because of the name of DARPA and what they actually do there, the advanced projects side of their name, is bombs, lasers, just crazy, weapon systems and missiles. No. DARPA's thing these days is the brain. That's the whole thing. The brain. Consciousness. And quantum entanglement comes into play here. This is a little side project, a little side bet on the side. That teleportation, think about what I'm trying to say here. That's what DARPA's focused on. And talking over the last, I'm gonna go back to the last month or so, where we're talking about not only the Mandela effect and alternate universes and parallel universes and timelines and time travel and consciousness. That's what DARPA is about. And making strides in this area with teleportation and quantum entanglement is a crazy part of our future. It really is. The ability with quantum entanglement and to affect something at vast distances, that and the ability to control consciousness, to upload it and download it, to read it, to get the interfacing together, to read off of your mind, and to be able to communicate with a piece of hardware, right? That's been the dream, and we are steps away from doing this. The obvious advantage to a lot of this is to be able to get the brain of a guy like Story Musgrave, get that baby downloaded onto a hard drive, and send that off on a ship, because now you've got a human being controlling the ship that's never going to die, and run the ship in a virtual world. And, and a few things could come into play here. It could be a cloned body. Fire that cloned body up 10,000 years from now and download consciousness back into it. That's one step. Download that consciousness into a robot. All of these are what DARPA is working on right now. And it's a crazy world. And this quantum entanglement side of things is right there. Now, another thing that I kind of need to talk about tonight, which I wasn't really gonna go there, but there were a couple of developments today out there in the world that were bizarre. Oh, by the way, and before I say what I'm about to say, Walter just posted a video, and I'm not going to publicize the video or anything, but I've seen about not that many, maybe a half a dozen over the last week since 9/11, since Hillary collapsed, about the Hillary body doubles and the Hillary clones, and is Hillary dead or alive? And okay, that is crazy talk. It is absolutely nutty crazy talk. All right, okay. There's no. The world is nuts, but it's not that nuts. But today, well, actually, it happened yesterday. Former President, speaking of Hillary, former President George H. Herbert Walker W. Bush told a room of roughly 40 people yesterday that he would vote for Hillary Clinton. Yep. He actually said the words. He shared his plans with the board members of the bipartisan Points of Light Foundation during what he believed was a private gathering in Kennebunkport, Maine. And this is where it gets really crazy. Kathleen Huntington Kennedy Townsend, Robert F. Kennedy's daughter, and the former Maryland lieutenant governor, posted a photo with herself and HW, along with the caption, "The president told me he's voting for Hillary," end quote. How nuts is the world that the Bushes and the Clintons are what, mending fences? Maybe not. But George separating himself from the Republican Party in this fashion is crazy. Now, voting is a private thing. We're not supposed to know that, right? And okay, whatever. But for him to say this privately in Kennebunkport speaks volumes, and he got busted. And it's who said this. This wasn't some, just somebody on Facebook or Twitter. This is Kathleen Kennedy Townsend. Very interesting. And we'll see what happens from here on out. Now, and another thing interesting happened today. Bayer. That's right, that Bayer that I've been talking about for 2 weeks now. Bayer may rebrand and rename Monsanto. And I'm quoting here from Bayer, to get beyond the reputation thing. and improve the GMO makers' reputation. The $66 billion acquisition deal is expected to be completed by the end of 2017. And if the deal goes through, it will make Bayer the world's biggest seed and pesticide producer. Bayer in Europe and Bayer in Germany has a very, very highly regarded and respected brand and name. And tying themselves with one of the most poisoned names on planet Earth, which is Monsanto, is not playing well right now with their shareholders and what's going on in Europe. Right? That GMO rebellion over there is the real deal. So they decided that they're going to go ahead and rebrand. They're going to rename Monsanto. What are they going to call it? Rainbows? I mean, what could possibly work? Today, here, before I let you go, there was a Cold War era U-2 spy plane nicknamed the Dragon Lady crashed up near Sacramento, California during a training flight earlier today. It caused a wildfire. Both pilots ejected, but the Air Force confirmed that one was killed. The U-2 went down in Sutter County, approximately 45 miles north of the capital of Sacramento. It took off from Beale Air Force Base, some 18 miles east of Yuba City, and the home of the Air Force's 9th Reconnaissance Wing. And that always bums me out, man, because I'm an airplane guy, and I've got a warm place in my heart for the U-2. I really do. But went down today. All right, one pilot died. This is Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, Richard Allen Miller is here. For real. For real. This is Fade to Black on the Game Changer Network and KGRA, The Planet. I'll be right back with Dr. Richard Allen Miller. Stay right there.
You're listening to Jimmy Church, Fade to Black.
Fade to Black will now pause for alien identification.
The station that talks the net. KGRA Radio. What's up, revolutionaries? It's me, Jimmy Church. Do you have an IRS or state tax issue? Well, I did, and I called national tax experts. My problems were fixed, done, fini, and man, I gotta tell you, it was a relief. National Tax Experts are a recognized tax office that services clients in all 50 states. Doesn't matter where you live. Give them a call. I'm telling you, they take the time to understand each and every client's individual financial status as well as their financial goals. And that's exactly what you need, my brother, when you're taking on the evil 3-letter. So, seriously, give them a call today at 1-877-909-5444. Again, 1-877-909-5444. Or go check out their website, www.nattaxexperts.com. That's NATTAXEXPERTS.com. Tell them Jimmy sent you.
Hi, folks. In a world of GMO, genetically modified organisms, that is, chemicals, processed foods, and a healthcare system that's unraveling like a cheap suit, it's time to prepare. God created herbs, and herbs help man. Our body can heal itself, just sometimes we need assistance. You need some help? GetTheTea.com. That's GetTheTea.com. Our mild detox is quite powerful with its unique blend of 8 different herbs. And if you're looking for more, our non-GMO supplements will help you with different needs you might have. Health should be a top priority. Take care of your health naturally. Log on to GetTheTea.com getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com. Give your body a treat. Let the herbs do their thing naturally. Read all the testimonies on the website, getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com. Sickness and viruses are like intruders, and herbs are like warriors. Let the tea work for you. That's getthetea.com.
9 out of 10 geneticists agree.
Fade to Black is not your father's radio show on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, The Planet.
Hi, this is Chase Klutsky with Fate Magazine Radio, and you're listening to Jimmy Church and Fade to Black on the Game Changer Network and the KGRA digital broadcast station, where the Fade or Nots rock.
Hi, this is Rob Reiner from Anvil, and you're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com.
What's up? I'm Chris. What up? This is Kyle Matthew, and you're listening to Jimmy Church Radio.
Welcome back, Fade to Black. Tonight, our guest is Richard Allen Miller. Tomorrow night, Jim Mars is joining us. Wednesday night, John Rappaport. Thursday night, John Rappaport. Open lines. Friday night, I'm over at Coast to Coast. My guest will be Steve Murillo. Saturday night on Coast to Coast, my guests are Ben Hansen and Caroline Corey. And then I will sleep all day Sunday. I will not get up. I promise. But tonight, it's RAM. Dr. Richard Allen Miller is here. Author, researcher. He reveals a depth of knowledge and experience in alternative agriculture, physics, and metaphysics. He began working in the secret world of Navy Intel, SEAL Corp, and then the MRU in the late 1960s, and now he's got amazing stuff and conclusions to share with us all. His writings reveal a depth of knowledge and experience in three major fields: alternative agriculture, physics, and metaphysics. Before many leading-edge concepts became those trendy topics, he was and is in the international front lines of research, experimentation, and documentation. Tonight, we're going to discuss his take on time travel, and this is something look, I'm going to let him explain it, and all the things that are going on in the world of Richard Allen Miller. His website, of course, is richardallenmiller.com. You can get to it. Just click right there over on our website. And I'd like to welcome back to Fade to Black, the one and only Richard Allen Miller. Richard, how are you tonight?
I don't know how to follow that, man. Thank you. It's nice to be with you again. Thank you. How did they say it in the movie Little Buddha? So nice to be with you again after so long a period.
You know what's great? When I call you on the phone, you don't say hello. You're like, "What's up, Jimmy?"
Well, I don't know. I've got something is telling me he's on the other line.
Well, no, I just mean your enthusiasm, man. Your enthusiasm.
Oh, yeah.
You are always, always there.
What did Crowley call that? Inflamement.
Right.
Well, that's what it is when you're inflamed. I think the current trend is called lit. That's why I live in the free state of Jefferson. We're down here with our grows and the whole thing. Do you know that I did the first marijuana grows for Boeing in 1970 with Lunar Base Alpha 1? And it was in Kent, before the Kent Space Center. It was like in Tukwila, and it was out there. It was called Boeing Scientific Research Laboratories, and they had a hydroponic system in there, New Galilee Gardens, that then Art Pilgrim set up, and my job was the physicist in charge of light.
Well, wait. Hold on, Richard. Stop right there. What did you guys do with the weed? What'd you do with the Mary Jane?
Yeah, that's a good one, huh? It was later, before Emerald Cups and all the rest of it. You could see this in Clean Room of Operations, where you had a decontaminating chamber before you went in, and they nuked you with this long ultraviolet xenon that made your skin turn white with the first layer of epidural just seared. That was how you sterilized. And we'd go into this laboratory where I'm growing marijuana. and then we got the right on this one. Puff. Neat. It was 1970. And that came out with polyploid physics and tissue culturing. And we were doing germplasm and cloning back then, trying to simulate, science fiction, like something that grew in space. Right. I was with Schilling when they did that orbital platform, and I did some experiments with orbiton truffulon. We were growing truffles in space, zero gravity. We wanted to see if we could make them grow differently.
And did you, back then in 1969, were you able to grow the
yes,
kind?
By the way, that's when all that happened. 69.
Wow,
that's correct.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I can only imagine what Richard Allen Miller's strain of weed was in 69. Hey,
it was a polyploid that later was known, cultivar, that was known as Sammamish slough.
What would happen?
It was better than Temple Ball. Okay, well, how would I know that? Yeah. Well, the military, believe this or not, when I left Boeing, that was in 69, 70, when I left Boeing and was working at the UW in anesthesiology, we were doing brain studies with certain drugs, telepathine, BZ, and ketamine. And ketamine is like, nobody gets it yet what ketamine is, but like dimethyltryptamine, that's telepathine. That's what it was known before Rick Strassman was doing. It was John Moore and myself. Moore's laboratory was next to mine, and we were doing what we call telepathine studies, because when you use that drug, you could somehow have close encounters.
What would happen if, I said this last month on the show, Richard, and I know you'll get this, but what would happen if we made everybody in Congress and the Senate, right, and the House, in the morning, like 7 a.m., hold on, hear me out. 7 a.m., when you first wake up, and made them all rip a bong hit and then go to work. Would this world change overnight? It would change.
I would certainly hope so, man. What happened to the 13th Amendment? And politicians were not allowed to be lawyers. It's crazy. It's crazy. The whole thing's nuts. And what we need now is Pinocchio. That's it. When they're lying, we get at least hell.
I mean, I'm serious. They would walk in, the Senate chambers. They would sit.
I can see it all, man. Yeah. In fact, they do that.
Yeah.
Mark Begich, Nick's younger brother, was junior senator of Alaska into Washington, D.C., and he refused to do a second term. He just won't do it. He's going to do local up in Alaska. But he said the whole thing's like L. Ron Hubbard, leveraging and blackmail and deals. Why do you think Trump wants to be president? He's like not even a 2%er, but why do you think he's like 1%ers, 2%ers, 3? Why would he want to be president? Hillary Clinton is a criminal. And the last woman that did less than half of what Hillary Clinton did, Benghazi, was electrocuted in the electric chair, for murder. That's what she should be charged for, just like what she's done. And I have to tell you, Trump has already changed enough of his values from beginning to end and what he stands for to realize he's for sale. And the only reason he's running is for business deals in Asia, and there's going to be a conflict of interest, and they've already reported that.
Yeah.
Now,
Here
we are at the end of days, and so I've been talking to a bunch of different people lately about a sustainable lifeboat. Armed Reds, retired and dangerous. These guys, me, having an armed kibbutzim, we'll call it a senior center. And there you go, man, lockdown. That's what's happening now across the country, and we're setting up networks, and they're already in place. There are places that are already doing it in Asheville, up in New Jersey, of course, Sandpoint, down here, on Pacifica Gardens, the old Steve Miller thing. Let me tell you what's going on there with just the Caterpillar. The Caterpillar is a bus that would go, it's run by children to go to all the grade schools, and it was mostly fit out with entomology, specifically the moth, whatever that moth is that everybody's interested in. It goes down all the way to Mexico. Who cares? What I'm interested in, we're going to strip it, we're going to put water testing kits in it, and have third graders showing first graders how to test for turbidity, pH, da-da-da, and then the last chapter is how a first grader shows their parent how they did it.
Well,
that's where you start.
What would probably scare me to death and kill us all is if we did test our water, because we would stop drinking it. Maybe we don't.
Yeah. And the H. pylori comes to mind, the little, and then they're all blowing it. How did Trump put it? Detroit made cars and you couldn't drink them. Water in Mexico. Now guess what?
Right. Well,
it's all the thing is nuts in what's going on now. And I think enough people are all listening to us right this moment. I get it. And so now what do we do?
I know.
If you don't vote, Hillary's in. If you vote, good luck.
Well,
because you did it. You see what I'm saying? There's no win.
Are we living in a holographic world, my man?
Yeah, probably. Matrix, yeah. There's something else going on, yes. I can talk about that with time travel if you'd like, because, yes, I've been writing The Non-Local Mind, and I'm on the second to the last chapter, and that is called Time Travel and the True Nature of Cavitation. And what I'm doing is writing about cavitation processes that we find in some mammals that I personally think are more highly evolved than we are. Cavitation
Richard,
now is how you do cold fusion at MIT.
Richard, can you back off your phone about a half an inch?
Sure. Thank you. Yeah. How about that?
Oh, there you go. Man,
when I get excited,
I know.
I'm an idiot savant. I actually drool.
Are you drooling?
No, I hum, I rock, and I wiggle the phone and wigging it around like a rock and roll star might a mic or something.
Yeah, right. Well, you're not that old yet.
I don't know. You get so caught up in it that it's like a dance rather than a talk. I can do Professor and sit back and breathe.
No, I don't want that. I want you. So you and I were talking this week, and you were talking about this, the finishing of the book, and these revelations that you were getting with the time travel stuff. Now, but let me share this with the audience, if you don't mind. You said one thing to me that I found profoundly interesting, which you said that it was almost like the future was coming to you, the finished book, and the writing is effortless because it's writing itself. Do you think that you're in that kind of zone, that you are writing the finished book now today?
Yes, of course. How could I not be?
Right.
And you are too. You just don't see that aspect yet. It's easy to see. It's right there in front of all of us. That's what I'm writing about, is this moment-to-moment discovery that I'm making as a physicist. And I'm like the physicist that didn't blow himself up. Helen Parsons Smith, Jack Parsons, and L. Ron Hubbard, and those OTO people. What I am, and nobody knows this, is that I am Dr. Strange, literally. The comic book hero that is about to come out in the movies. That is what I am, literally. That's why the military used me, because I'm up against creepy. I did the first artificial intelligence thing with Project Parafel down in Claremont. We had a modem. It was the Kohotech conference, and I presented embryonic holography and Project Parafile. And you can reference those on the internet under I Married the Wizard of Oz by Iona Miller, the Oak one. And it runs it down what she saw when she was married to me and what I was doing. Project Parafile was a 360 at the UW, University of Washington, that we set in serendipity and synergy. And we found a religious church that brought all their members in to key punch in all the Russian literature so that we could go into a serendipity and synergy search when we were looking for keywords out of Czechoslovakia. Russia was a little superstitious, so a lot of it was mostly happening out of Czechoslovakia. And let me tell you, some of the things they were discovering are seriously important.
I read that article paper that you're referencing there, and I have to say, and I did that a couple of years ago. I stumbled upon it and read it, and those must have been, and this is what the article was about, everybody, and you should go check it out. Those must have been the most insanely creative times for everybody that was involved.
Music, anything.
Yes.
That's right. You nailed it. It was the late 60s, and something was happening there like is about to happen right now. It's cyclic.
With okay, in your view, which version of time travel is occurring? You know, which version of it? Because there's different. Right?
Into the Out of. How's that one?
Yeah,
That's Alan Dean Foster, where a bunch of wizard magicians in Africa watch these demons pop on into space. He's the one that wrote Star Wars.
Right.
Alan Dean Foster.
Right.
Into the Out of.
Right.
Yeah, that's a good book.
That'd be a good song.
Well, that's right. It is. Everything is binary. That's what I'm now discovering. That is the very foundation of what Mark Leclerc at MIT is doing with cold fusion studies, Rustum Roy at UPenn, Jerry Pollack, my lead, the guy that hired me in 1970, Jerry Pollack, he's UW, da-da-da-da-da. We're all coming out of the closet with what happened in the 70s and what we're discovered. The 80s changed. There was a thing that happened in the 80s. It was no longer about blue sky. We had no idea where the research might take us. It was like we already knew everything we needed to know. Now what we needed to know is application. So nothing was funded if it didn't have some kind of monetary direction with it, marketing. And that was in physics, in all of it. And it was a change in things. I saw that happen. And that's probably when we were hijacked, literally, by the Rothschilds or whatever they call that union. I'm right now interfacing with White Dragon. I don't know what they are. Chinese. Different values, moral codes of ethics, rules of conduct. I'm an extremely moral man. And that means I walk my talk. It doesn't mean I'm right, and I don't make judgment on another. I walk it as a magician, and I'm trying to do what I think's right for me. And if I do that right, Crowley said, none shall say nay. If you're doing your true will, if you're doing what you're that's how you know where you're not in conflict with anything.
Let's talk about time travel and what you're writing about now. How do you like the direction of your revelations?
I'm going to say that your stomach, your gut, that instinct, the first thought that occurs to you in your brain before any other 5 things come out, logic, that first thing, that's a future timeline that's talking to you. Now, if you dialogue with that, with your present moment, because that's how you do it, it's the moment.
Right.
What happens next is the past changes. And you change it as you want to, as the movie that you're watching. Now, there's a chapter after this one in the book called, the last chapter, 8 chapters, just like for neurotransmitters. And that one is called Rock the Casimir, or Adventures in Time Travel. And if anybody wants to understand what the Casimir effect is about, please simply Google Gurdjieff's Meetings with Remarkable Men movie, the dance scene. And the third and final scene done by Whirling Dervish is a rodent coil. And I'm going to run it down in terms of how the physics works because previous technologies in other epochs used sound and movement, like dance. Gabriel Roth or Kate Bush or previous Kenneth Anger in his Magic Lantern series, using movement to change space-time. And it was a technology that existed, and here's how it worked, blah, blah, blah. And when I was in the 70s, I saw Whirling Dervish. They sent me into Africa. I watched them dance, sword fight, stick swords right through them without any blood. And so I ended up studying people like Jack Schwartz of Alethea Foundation at the Manager Foundation. If you don't think the military didn't want to know how all that worked, I mean, we're talking about being able to control bleeding and autonomic functions beyond just what parasympathetic nervous system would imply. Right now, the experiments I'm doing in terms of the Casimir effect and the rodent coil is with neurotransmitter releases in my brain, just simply using visual imaging.
And when you say...
That's why training the mind is so important.
Yeah, and when you say movement, what do you mean by that?
Tai Chi. You know, moving your hand in grace with the union of space and your chi. That I don't know how the words vary. Chi is another chapter that I'm going to talk about, called the Omega Principle, the energy which patterns randomness. I've got the system on how it works in a holographic model. I've got equations and math that fall out showing how to take our three-dimensional universe and move it into n dimensions. And then, once you've done that, that's 5 space.
Are the numbers working right now?
Stay tuned. Film at 11. Same bad channel, same bad time.
So are you feeling pretty good? Are you feeling pretty cocky?
Well, I don't know. I'm enlightened. Yes, I feel healthy. I feel wealthy and wise. But I have no money. I'm a starving artist. But you know what? It doesn't matter because I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing, which is I can't begin to tell you what it allows. When I make a discovery on time travel, I can right now, just from the 5 articles I've written out of 10 that I must, I've already got it in my brain, but I haven't put it down. As I put it down, it flows out of me, and there's a future element that changes it just slightly, so I'm not sure how it's going to end the chapter.
How do you know which turn to take?
That's my future.
Yeah, right. I mean, how do you...
That's my future.
Right,
that's how it can... That's instinct. And once you understand, that's ESP, induction, forms of self-hypnosis. All these altered states that we have, tweaking down to paranoia and all of it, each one is a gift from God as a tool. It's to know when to use it. And it's like you got different kinds of hammers. You know, you got a ball peen hammer, you got a rubber hammer, you got different hammers. Hammer is a 4th level of archetype of something in principles of resolution. And that's what I'm writing about, is information and how it collapses into or out of itself like time. Take an infinity sign and turn it on its side, and you have an hourglass. And the top is the past flowing into the future, and all you have is the moment.
Are we going to be able to
right now?
Are we going to be able?
This is what is forming a cavitation. There's a beginning, then all this different meat stuff that we're going to do about who knows what, and the ending of this. And that moment will change.
Well,
everything.
can we right the ship? Can we do
You
it?
are. You're just not aware of it because you're still a little baby like me drooling.
Right.
Well, I mean, yes, that's it. That's the distinction between intent and purpose. They're, to all practical purposes, in a sense, but they seem the same to each where our level of consciousness is. However, an artificial intelligent computer can profile you so accurately it knows before you do what you're going to do. However, that machine also does not feel pleasure when it beats you at chess. And so now that is what made you God's favored.
Right.
The idea of how you feel about something.
Exactly.
Not just what it is, but the emotional content of it is the second level of information. And that's the distinction difference between intent, what actually happens at the end of the day, and purpose, why you're actually here. Once you understand the distinction between the two, now you have a choice.
Well, what are we going to, Richard? What are we going to do? Because that is that.
What do you mean, wait, man?
Yeah, exactly. Because you know that is Google's intent. That is DARPA's intent.
Google's intent,
right?
Listen, man,
is to
it's
get
out of Google's hands. Trust me.
You think so?
Oh yeah. And you know what? I no matter what they say, I really love Zen Gardner's writings. And there's a man that is a better writer than me. I'm a nerd, but he's a writer and articulates. They're on the run. They're on the run. Yes, they're on the run because, for example, there's no amount of money that is about to prepare any of us for what is about to happen. Nibiru, binary, and what we call the mini body problem, where you throw a bunch of billiard balls down on the table. How's that going to flow?
That's right.
And when this does happen, and you can count on it, the blue cucina, there it is. You can assume that it isn't about preparing. The most important tool in your toolbox is not that Swiss Army knife. It's your attitude.
That's right. Well, but see, this is the thing, Richard, and we're going to take a break right here, and I'm going to let everybody know all of Richard's books are available over at richardallenmiller.com. Some of the best reading ever in the history of all things is right there at richardallenmiller.com. Richard, what we need, and this is my fear right here, is that what we need like the emotion police to make sure that they keep emotions out of software.
Yeah, that's it, man.
I know.
Yeah, that's, you can go to Iceland and they have hangthebanker.com. That's a good place to go.
You are the
They actually went out
best.
and hung their bankers.
You are the absolute best. Now, when we come back, we're going to take a break here. I want to jump into the binary and stay on this time travel concept. You had mentioned another thing to me earlier that I want to off air about the drop of water, and I want to get to that too as well because you explained it so well to me, and I told you we got to stop talking about it. We have to save it for the show. So I just remembered it, and we'll hit all of that when we come back. Our guest tonight, the one and only Dr. Richard Allen Miller. richardallenmiller.com is the website. This is Fade to Black. More with Ram right after this short break. This is Fade to Black on the Game Changer Network and KGRA, The Planet. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. I'll be right back.
This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
The station that talks the net. KGRA Radio.
Hello, I'm Katie, and you're listening to my main man, Jimmy Church, on jimmychurchradio.com.
Hi, this is Ray Hobbs here, repping the planet, and you're listening to my good friend, Jimmy Church, Fade to Black, on the Game Changer Network and the KGRA digital broadcast station.
Fate or not, things are never what they seem. For the past century, forbidden subjects such as UFOs, backward engineering, human abductions, secret space programs, underground bases, suppressed free energy devices, and other fantastic notions have tested the human mind, forcing it to decipher fact from fiction. Chronicling what he calls the alternative narrative, author Brad Olson gets down to the middle of it all in his best-selling book, Future Esoteric, now released in a second edition by CCC Publishing.
And now you can get Future Esoteric at a special price, plus another free book by just using the promo code Jimmy when you check out. Just click on the Future Esoteric or CCC Publishing banner at jimmychurchradio.com. Go back, Lee Tepe.
Uncertainty has become the talking point when it comes to financial markets. One thing is becoming certain: safe haven assets. Hard assets are now becoming the choice of informed investors. The most recognized and valued hard asset is gold. The highest performing asset this year is gold. Trust gold to protect and grow your IRA or 401k. Central banks and billionaires are doing the same thing. Choose a more stable asset that has tremendous upside potential. As these uncertain times threaten the markets, your decision to reduce your exposure to these markets before further negative effects to your portfolio would be well timed. Call 1-800-GOLD-IRA to transfer your existing IRA into an actual physical gold and silver IRA. American Bullion is the pioneer of gold IRAs. They handle all the details for you. Call 1-800-GOLD-IRA to get prepared. Start protecting and growing your IRA and 401k before the next crash. American Bullion. 1-800-GOLD-IRA.
This is Toby Kebbell. You're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com. Don't hurt me, Jimmy. I'm only little.
Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier. And this is Ari Gold. We're the Honey Brothers. We are of the Honey Brothers. Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier.
And I'm Ari Gold.
We're the Honey Brothers.
And you're listening to Jimmy Church.
The Revolution.
What's up, Fadernauts? Studio Dome loves Fade to Black and the F2B audience so much that they have put together the ultimate stereo Bluetooth system. They've done it just for you. Man, check this out. The Studio Dome SBB2 stereo system is here. It's featuring two Studio Boombox 2 SBB2 wireless Bluetooth speakers, packed in its own custom hardshell case. This Studio Dome system features the very latest in stereo Bluetooth technology. The two full-range boomboxes are in true wireless stereo. You've got to hear this. It's amazing. It's just $129, and use the promo code JCRTWS, and you'll also get free shipping. It's simple. Just go to jimmychurchradio.com, click on the Studio Dome banner. Go back, Lee Tepe.
This is Micah Hanks of the Gralien Report, and you're listening to Jimmy Church on Fade to Black, across the globe on the Game Changer Radio Network and the one and only KGRA Radio, The Planet.
Welcome back to Fade to Black. Our guest tonight, the one and only Dr. Richard Allen Miller, is here. Tomorrow night, Jim Mars. Thursday night, John Rappaport. Friday night, I'm over at Coast with Steve Murillo. Saturday night, I'm at Coast with Caroline Corey and Ben Hansen. Richard, do you have any idea how much our audience loves you? You should see Twitter right now.
No, but I did want to say something. You know, Jim Mars is very cool, and I wish you would say hi to him. I have not seen him since, I think, almost 10 years.
Oh, really?
And I did several things together in Amsterdam and Brisbane with Nexus Magazine.
Right.
And I met John Rappaport there, too. But Jim Mars was someone I really enjoyed. He and my ex-wife, Iona, and I got to travel around a little bit and see other parts of Australia when we went there back then. It was 2003.
Wow.
That was, yeah.
Yeah, that's a pretty good crowd. Rappaport, you and Mars and Iona running around together.
Yeah, well, that's just a
wow.
And plus a lot of others.
Yeah.
You know, Carol Rosen just lives down the street from me,
right.
And John Henderson is just over on the ocean here. There's a lot of people around me that are interesting, and there's a network. And if you're interested, check out, just do a look on Pacifica Gardens, the Steve Miller retreat where he put his sound studios.
Right.
It's now run by Dennis Dragon.
Right.
That Eric Clapton was part of the
yes.
the old, what was that called? fresh garbage. They did fresh garbage.
Right.
Do you remember who that was?
Oh, I do.
A single name. It was fresh garbage.
Yep, I do. Those days and
I know, man. Days, D-A-Z-Y.
Oh, man.
Monterey. Yeah, it's. I'm that old. I saw Janis Joplin get off up at Strawberry Mountain, the third Sky River in B.C. with Big Brother, and it was raining and poured down rain, man. And it was mud. It was really a rock festival, just like in the old days.
Now, really quick. I don't want this to get away from me.
No, sir.
JTG just tweeted, do you have any books about time travel or technical material about it? Do you have anything out there specifically that addresses that?
There's a few articles that are talking about it. The way I'm approaching it today is that CERN, prior to their nonsense with a singulate, did an experiment attempting to create a quark gluon plasma. That specific kind of a plasma has, in the modeling systems that we use, appears in nature for 1/10 of a second during the Big Bang, and then it mutates out into all the elementary particles we now know and enjoy. But a quark-gluon plasma, what happened when they were trying to create a Big Bang model is a reflected universe was created, like a cavitation ball. And the way I'm going to try to visualize it is a drop of water. A drop of water falls from the heaven and it hits a pool of water. What happens first? What you first notice are the waves that go out. That represents the future. The waves that go in basically slap and form an exclusion zone water that captures the medium in which it falls. That's called a cavitation ball. And it pops back up 2/3 of the way that the drop of water might have fallen or something. Pops up but not. And then each time it pops up is a new cavitation ball. It is not a drop of water. It is. And the waves that go inward are the past that capture the moment and the medium you're falling. And this epoch is trial by fire. Now, in other words, at the moment of death, isn't it interesting that as you get older, as an information source of reality, that the older you get, the more you begin to know, and yet, the more you know, you end up with more questions.
Yeah, it's an infinite.
Well, there it is, going into the future.
Right.
And the waves that are rolling out there are determined by the size of the drop and the momentum in which it hits at the velocity. It's the mass of the water droplet times the speed at which it fell, and presuming non-terminal things. We're going to talk about supercavitation in a minute, which is it's a whole other thing. So when this happens, what your moment is doing is capturing the moment in a cavitation ball that's going back and forth from past to the future. Now, at the moment of death and the moment after, in Merkaba mysticism, that's called Dath, D-A-A-T-H. It is the missing Sephirah in the middle of the abyss that is a stepping stone. I've written a whole book on that in my magic systems that I'm not yet ready to disclose to the universe. It's called Dath. And basically, if we were playing Follow the Leader, and you ran down, I ran down the hill, and you followed me down the hill, then I came to a roaring river, and without hesitation, I leaped out into the middle of the river, and just at that very moment, touched on a rock you didn't see, slightly under the water. It was not seeable, and leaped over to the other side laughing.
Right.
That's Dath. It's a temporary place.
Oh.
It is a place of knowledge through wisdom.
Right.
And the two outer paths that go to God are the hermit and the lovers. That means you do it androgyny or you do it with a reflected mate in the external world, in dialogue. And the path that connects the two of them, that goes right through death and through the middle of the abyss, is humor.
That's right. Yes.
Boo. And so that is first lesson in magic, and which is, in fact, the new physics. As alchemy has led to chemistry, and I'm writing, that book was called The Modern Alchemist. Guess what book number 2 that sequels that is? It's ready for press. It's called Pantheon, Archetypal Gods in Daily Living. And guess what? There's only 22 chapters. It's a book on tarot and pathworking, leading into the 12-volume Holistic Kabbalah. This week, I just uploaded a 9-volume encyclopedia of alternative agriculture. All 9 volumes are available in B-book form. It's cheap, and you can get them from all over the world with no postage.
Hey! I want to go back here for a second. As we get older, I'm going to repeat your statement.
Yes.
As we get older, the more knowledge that we have, but we also
is just set off by the more questions you have.
The more questions
that you don't know.
Well, how does a guy like you control that? I mean,
I'm not trying to control it. Control.
I know. Isn't that
fantasy? It's not real.
Isn't it insanity almost? I mean,
well,
because
there it is.
How do you keep?
Amadeus.
Yeah. Right. How do you keep up? How do you keep up?
Yeah. My girlfriend is kind of concerned on whether I'm insane or a genius. Stay tuned.
Right.
Right. I drool. I need housekeeping. They sent me, instead of a handler, I have a wrangler, handling small animals and children on set. That's what I work with the military. They can't control me, so they send a first grade school teacher to me, a principal, telling me what to do.
with a lasso, no doubt, right?
So, no. She's not Wonder Woman. She's better than that, man. That's the Holy Girl. I wrote those comics, man. That's just like the music.
But I'm serious. How do you start to decide what questions you're going to pursue?
Yeah,
because
I am okay. So I'm writing about time travel, and the first article starts off with it is not. And I start with St. Augustine and some of the usual suspects that had determinism and, the future is not possible, singularities, And then I come to the fact that I was able to teach Navy SEALs how to change the perception of time so their martial arts became paranormal. That's a technique you can do because when you're in sense and danger, time changes in your experience of it. And as you get older, like you and me, the experience of time is much different than that of a child.
That's right.
Okay, well, imagine that as the form of an hourglass, as the one part of a two-part cavitation, the hollow earth. And so all star systems have a binary. And the one that, the Sanford comes out, there it is, it's out past the Oort cloud, it's a brown dwarf. Wait, something's wrong with that brown dwarf. What's wrong with it? It has an unusual IR signature, suggesting, according to some of my buddies at JPL, it's an artifact around it, Dyson sphere.
Right.
And, well, that might be our future. And the whole thing about our experience of time and space and death and all of that is missly not the way it really is. And if you choose to look at it differently, you have opportunities now. And so I spent 2 weeks in the jungles with Eben Alexander and Proof of Heaven. I was in 2014 and wanted to know, he's a neurosurgeon that died and had experience like Kubler-Ross and others would suggest, and then came back, and I wanted to interview him on that because I had a little girl that died in my arms, and I didn't know what to tell her when she wanted to know what was going to happen because none of us have a clue.
Yeah, and with
so
Eben,
I started to approach this whole thing from a physics point of view.
Yeah, with Eben, it couldn't have happened to a more perfect person. Dude is a neurosurgeon,
he's
right?
A nerd. He's classically trained, blah, 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 blah.
Right.
And then, like me, had unusual situation that I had to step up to. at the time when I was 18 back in the 70s, when the military found or discovered or had something they did not understand, they would bring in a team. And I'll tell you, I was 18, and I caught a lot of flies with my mouth open in disbelief. I have seen things I today still don't have a clue on it, and in fact have now started to come to the conclusion that a lot of this doesn't work that way. You don't have answers, because it's like Simon says, you can go halfway to the door. The goal is, it's not even about the door, it's about the journey.
What do you do to get to the knowledge? Do you tap into source? Do you go into a zone? Or is it always on with you?
I'm like that little plant in a little shop of horrors. Feed me, mama. I'm constantly reading, man, stuffing it out. Crave input. Oh, that's circuit, high circuits. Yeah, there you go. Shorting. I don't know. It's unusual because I don't look at myself like that, and I don't see myself as different. I know I might be in some minor ways, but I don't know that. I don't think of it like that. I make mistakes all the time, and what were we talking about? I lose it. I'm old man syndrome. For me, I don't think I'm that special. However, I am enlightened. I meditate. My teacher was Sharon Singh. I am a satsangi. I am following the whole path the right way. I'm the physicist that did not blow myself up. And what I'm going to say is, as alchemy has led to chemistry, so now physics will lead to magic. Magic is basically advanced physics with a mystery school. It is the art of changing consciousness at will. And when you can do that, you can change the movie, just like controlling autonomic functions. So you can get rid of allergies or control your heart rate, pulse, and respiration, brainwave states. I did that 45 years ago. I'm on a new thing where I'm releasing specific neurotransmitters in concert to play a harmony that is a whole other universe I don't know quite how to articulate it, so I'm going to try to do it from a physics point of view so everybody kind of sort of gets it. And because it isn't the physics that makes it right, it's the imagination. And once everybody's got that, if I can give it to you in your mind's eye, if you've got it. And here's the good news. If I understand it, it's archetypally part of the base of knowledge for all of us, just like none of us are original, including me. If I am you, and you are me, and I am the walrus.
Well, and to that end, DARPA made this announcement today about teleportation and quantum entanglement, something that you've been talking about forever. They announced today that they are now able to move the information from one photon to another.
Lockheed. That's that teleportation laser that Carnegie Mellon tried to get me stopped from writing 2 years ago.
Right.
That's
so,
a huge range. Yeah.
Well, how far along are they really with this? If they made this announcement today, obviously
it's already an application, plural.
Right. How far along are they?
It's been in applications for more. Well, okay, let's try it this way. They used an aircraft or something to try to simulate. Listen, when 9/11 happened, 2001, and we have this, 617-foot steel beam falling at free fall and evaporating as it's falling. It wasn't jet fuel. Can't get hot enough. We used to work Cenex and all the rest. Listen, that's a plasma. And that's a controlled thermonuclear fusion bomb that has the precision of 1.4 nanometers. That's the quality of the explosive device's accuracy now. That means they can put that nanofiber in an aircraft, let's say, and there's no forensics.
How much of a nanometer? 0.4?
1.4 nanometers. The exact boundary space of exclusion zone water that you can put inside a C60 buckyball molecule. Buckyball carbon Carbon. Carbon is an unusual element in that it bonds to itself, which means you can have monofilament carbon layers. Okay? Now, diamond is an allotrope, one of them, really hard diamond. Okay, but it'll bond itself in a flat sheet. However, if you only have 60 carbon atoms, they will perfectly form a ball. It's called a buckyball. And if you have 120, it's another kind of buckyball, but the C60 buckyball is the smallest structure, and then it's 100 plus times harder than diamond. That's what they're making the space elevator out of. And it's in Japan. They're making the space elevator be a little whip that rips around, connects to the space out there in space. Like we'll have a planet with a bunch of whipping, like a little semen or something. I don't know. Right. And it's that's nuts, man. And the molecule difference between the one carbon atom and the other is 1.4 nanometers. And it turns out that H3O2, exclusion zone water, that primo water, will just fit inside one of those buckyballs. And that becomes a probable type of bioremediation for radiation. I'll talk about that in a minute. That was an article I wrote for Nexus magazine. However, if you put deuterium in it, now you have a cold fusion device that if you can ignite the deuterium inside the molecule, you have a containment that can hold that fusion explosion of deuterium. And the way you ignite it is with this teleportation laser, which is called quantum tunneling. The problem is, with quantum mechanics, is the uncertainty principle of the more you know about one thing, the less you know about something else. And so to do tunneling, this is called event horizons, has to do with what I'm writing about in teleportation and cavitation processes. Now, this is a Bose-Einstein condensate issue that is now the big thing in physics in terms of they've discovered the Bose-Einstein condensate. There it is, boom. But really, Heisenberg is the one that put the hitch in the giddy-up using space and time as your form of measuring what's going on in the physical world. And so now I have suggested a holographic system where rather than talk about time and space, we talk more about information and the resolution of information and the way you can collapse something down. For example, you have the physical plane, then you have how your higher self talks to you, which is emotionally, and that's called EQ. And then above that, you have the intellectual idea of Plato that talks in terms of the distinction between a chair and a couch as a basic form. And then you have the thing above that, the archetypal level, which distinguishes us from non-human. And that is, and there's four more, there's 8 levels of consciousness here, and I am now attempting to explore the second one as EQ, like a Bene Gesserit. The brain is basically a 4-dimensional hologram of 5 space because of its amorphous semiconductor properties, which means, right as a solution, if you can go to different places in the brain with your meditation, you can change the projection of the matrix you're creating as a cavitation ball. And that's why I'm writing about time travel.
Right. And I'm totally following you right now. You're making me...
Good.
You're making
because once you get it, it's not my words. It's your mind's eye.
Right.
That's where the real... And that is going to be called magic. And now when you charge it with the juice, the elixir vitae, as Ming would call it, how did Andy Warhol put it? Where are my weirgens when I need them? That energy place. I'm just kidding. That is the different kinds of magic that are being practiced by all these different weird lodges now. And some of them do pedophile, for the weird thing like voodoo, where they got blood spurting all over the place and yet it's emotional charge. Another group is using the mass of the Holy Ghost or a form of sex magic based out of Tantra and systems of how to take psyche into matter. Another one over here might be doing what is that? Cadavers, necromancy. There you go. That's a good one.
But
there's all these different systems of magic, and really, there's only one real book of magic, and it came from Solomon the King. And then all through the centuries, the different translations from Samuel McGregor Mathers calling it the Greater Keys of Solomon, Goetia, but it originally clavicle in a different part of history. Grimoires are basically various translations of that original book of Solomon that was going to cut that child in half to find out who the real mother is.
Well, and I want to stay focused on this because I had referenced earlier the quantum entanglement properties and starting to understand the communication between photons or elements.
Well, that's one model. The thing is,
but hold on, hold on, Richard.
Coding safer.
Let me finish though.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry.
Is that is magic? That is magic.
Well, that's an interest. Yes. Okay. Now I'm getting you. Yeah. Yes. Good for you. Now you're getting it. You're getting it. Yes.
Yeah, and if we
good, thank you. Yeah, me too.
Well, but it's really true, and if we actually do dial this in and get this figured out, which I think that we already have, this is only what they're telling us. Let's use it as a weapon first, right?
Right.
That's what I had said. That'll be the first thing. But but if this gets resolved and we start to understand this and can control it, isn't this what the mystics and everything that has been based on throughout time when we're talking about magic and alchemy and everything?
Yeah.
Does it all come together?
There is a group of anthropologists that have called cybernetic anthropology. Laughlin, D'Aquila, and McManus come to mind, and Lucifer.com, the original Church of the Virus, the idea that an idea was in itself a virus.
Right.
And that was a movement that started in the 70s, mostly in the Midwestern universities. They were trying to do urban sprawl constructs and how to construct the layout of a city so that it had a kind of consciousness to it. That distinguished it from Chicago to New York, and that each one is different because of the way it's laid out structurally. And cybernetic anthropology would include a person that would get in an automobile and not think about an internal engine combustion, just knows that if they go through certain rituals, like a key in this thing and turning it that way, has expectations something's going to happen.
Let's take a break right there. When we come back, it's kind of funny because you stirred a lot of emotions here with your comments about 9/11. Not 9/11 in general, but
I know.
Are we talking about a plasma bomb? Are we saying that it was buckyballs that took it down? Or what? But anyway, when we come back after the break,
I gotcha. No problem. Judy Wood.
Yeah, exactly. We'll jump back into that a little bit for some clarification, and then we're going to talk about life after death. This is Fade to Black. Our guest tonight, the one and only Dr. Richard Allen Miller. I'm your host, Jimmy Church, on the Game Changer Network and KGRA The Planet. More with Ram right after this. Stay right there, everybody.
Way out here, we listen to Jimmy Church.
You're listening to Fade to Black.
Always on the edge of the hottest alternative talk. Jimmy Church with Fade to Black. KGRARadio.com.
¿Qué tal, mis amigos? Yo soy Mario Carson, el tiburón, y los invito para que escuchen a mi buen amigo Jimmy Church Radio. ¡Claro que sí!
Attention CPAP users. Stop the insanity and torture of your CPAP mask. Don't you hate the skin irritation and terrible leaks? Jump on the CPAP Pro train. Invented by an actual CPAP user that became so frustrated with CPAP masks. Are you ready to try something new? With absolutely no straps or headgear? Go to nomask.com and get the best night's sleep ever. Free to Medicare patients. Go to nomask.com. That's NOMASK.com.
If your home has hard water, then it's likely that limescale is clogging your pipes, damaging your appliances, costing you hundreds of dollars each year. You can eliminate limescale in the entire house with HydroCare products available at Wave Home Solutions. Easy and efficient with no maintenance, no salts, no chemicals, and no coils. And you can buy with confidence from Wave Home Solutions. Performance guaranteed. Just go to bestwater411.com. That's bestwater411.com.
These statements have not been evaluated by the FDA. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. Work with your doctor when taking medications. Make Protovite part of your healthy lifestyle.
HealthForLiberty.com is your source for Protovite, a powerful nutritional supplement that's a true breakthrough for your health. Poor digestion makes it nearly impossible to absorb the nutrition your body needs. Protovite is a liquid multi-nutrient formula with patent-pending absorption technology and the highest quality ingredients to nourish every cell in your body.
My name is Sandra White. 6 weeks ago, when I started taking Protovite, I was on 14 medications, from everything for blood pressure to fibromyalgia. In the first 10 days, my blood sugar dropped 50 points, and my fibromyalgia pain is gone. And so was 12 of the 14 medications that I was taking. I'm 66, living life and loving it.
Go to healthforliberty.com right now. That's healthforliberty.com.
Thank you, Protovite, for giving my life back.
You are listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
Oi, oi, I'm Reese Evans. You're listening to Jimmy Church. This is Revolution. The revolution will not be televised. The revolution is on radio. Ciao.
Welcome back to Fade to Black. Our guest tonight, Dr. Richard Allen Miller. All of his books are available over at his website, richardallenmiller.com. But aside from that, it's a great website. Just go and hang out over there every single day. It's what I do. Now, Richard, I want to go back and clarify something because you have a way, sir, of going past something really quick. Now let's go back.
I know, isn't it fun?
I know, it is. It's totally.
Who was that mask man?
You rock. Okay, so you were saying that inside of a buckyball contains
a single molecule of exclusion zone water or deuterium.
Deuterium.
Because those are the only two elements small enough, oxygen and hydrogen, and a single from first molecule. Helium is uninteresting because it doesn't have a dipole moment.
Okay.
It's water, yeah.
Or deuterium. Okay, so through quantum entanglement and teleportation, that's how you would change the status.
Ignite the molecule.
Right. Change the status.
Inside the chamber,
right.
And it's contained.
That's insane.
That's how they do it. And they do filaments. Long fibers, and you can put them in bicycles, like they do carbon fiber bicycles,
right.
to make them stronger.
Right.
You can put them in a joint in a body,
right.
Kind of like that Spock movie, Star Trek, where they have a duplicate universe with a device that they can make people disappear.
Yeah, one of the
Just
best
kidding.
One of the best episodes ever.
I know. It's all happening because imagination is reality, and Hollywood That's a type of wand, that you use for magic. The Hollywood is a holly tree, and she would if she could, because that's where all the money goes for the 1%ers controlling our universe right now. And that's why their values are different than ours. Am I going off on a tangent? Here we go. Because, in fact, it's time everybody realizes that you're brainwashed and that it is not as you think it is
now,
in any sense. And the problem I have is I'm really clever, I'm really smart, and I know I don't know, and I have a feeling there's a good chance I'm never really going to know.
Right. Well, okay. Now let's go back. Let's go back to the space elevator, and I know it's being developed in Japan.
Oh yeah.
Did you say they were building that with buckyballs or carbon fibers?
That is how they're doing it. I wrote an article on the new directions of the fullerene molecules. It turns out that you can create an antioxidant with these buckyball fibers. If you put exclusion zone water inside it, you give lethal doses of radiation to rats, and 95% will be recovered, because when you have the lethal exposure, it's clicking around in there like a pinball. And what you do is these fibers go in there and they isolate it. And it is a super bioremediation. And so the other side of that coin is the deuterium, and there is your duality thing happening again.
I'm trying to wrap my head around this a little bit. How are the buckyballs then fused together? How do you get them into a chain?
They form what are called nanofibers, and the buckyball has its enclosure, and it has a charge on the outside all the way around because of the exclusion zone water inside it.
Okay, because I know they kind of look like a soccer
the
ball.
Connection in the way the carbon buckyball bonds to the next buckyball and forms a tube.
Right. Wow, that's frightening.
Okay, and the tube can be then layered.
I got you. And
then it's layered more.
And they stick together.
And now you have a substance that's 100 times stronger than diamond, and it has the potential of bioremediating radiation, or being used in Gaza and Golan Heights as a tactical nuke.
Right. Now, is it light? Is it a light material too as well?
Oh, carbon.
Yeah, it's carbon.
So, water.
Right.
Yeah, there it is.
Right.
We didn't wave. And, no big deal. Yes. It's light. That's why they use it, because it's real strong for how small it is.
Right. And so when Arthur C. Clarke first wrote about space elevators and it seemed like everything that he wrote about actually came to pass, right? The one thing that hasn't yet are these space elevators. And he had written, this is the way, why have rockets when we could have space elevators? And it makes sense. But there was always the material that would be used for this, and buckyballs is the answer?
Well, it is at this juncture in terms of the space elevators being constructed in Japan, and I have the company, I can't remember the company that's doing it, but there they are.
Right.
You can see it online and see what they're doing and da-da-da-da-da,
right.
Just like they're doing at Livermore. Now, the Lockheed experiments came out of JPL and Carnegie Mellon. And that teleportation laser now means we no longer need encryption and coding. And it means that I can talk to you without anybody in between us interfering with capturing my signal to you.
Right. And total encryption.
There you go. And so, it's, nanometer specific.
Right.
Well, that's there you go. It's about as close as you can get it.
Right.
It's interesting to note that this can be used in both ways, and what's actually happening. This, by the way, this concept came from the Mossad, and I don't think Mossad were involved with 9/11. I don't think so, but I absolutely know they knew about it. And the 9/11 event was the need for a body count to get a terrorism bill through Congress. And that's the kind of government we have here in America right now. And when I tell you that, I remember the chief of police that was running his crew and had lost some of his crew, and how he felt about it when they interviewed him in the streets of New York City. And the Pentagon was not hit with an airplane. It was hit with a cruise missile specifically to take out a bunch of files. They're gone. Just like that large skull that was set to the Smithsonian in 1800 and something, because it was discovered in Pennsylvania. There's conspiracies that are not related, but they show a pattern in history and why capitalism is not going to work. Period. End of story. And so there is a radical movement. I did some Skyping this morning. We have a group of interest now across the country in networking sustainable lifeboats, because the USS America is taking on water. And, it's time to think about lifeboats. And lifeboats with oars. That's a sustainable lifeboat. And so you're talking about small communities going back in history to the way small communities used to do it, rather than a 3-day just-in-time delivery with your food based on petroleum.
Right.
That is crazy physics.
Right.
Well, it's crazy.
It is.
And fracking aside, and what's happening now, Florida's got a bunch of holes that are radioactive. And all the Daiichi-like plants across America right now are all leaking, and most of them are on that fault line in the Midwest. And I'm telling you, we're crazy, because we're going to create a situation where it'll be just like in the movies.
Well, if anything happened, Richard, this is the truth. If anything happened simultaneously to the 10 freeway, the 5 freeway, and the 4, we would in LA, there would be no after 3 days.
Zombie. That's what a zombie is.
Right. After 3 days,
East LA out of food.
Yeah, no food.
I mean, there it is, man.
We would dry up and be done in 3 days here in LA.
How about in New York with a CMA, a simple CMA, and you're 16 floors up and have to go to the toilet?
Right, you can't do it. Ain't gonna happen.
And where's your water come from?
Right.
FEMA?
Right.
Yeah, right. And New York City, those kinds of lifestyles are going to radically change shortly. And the only reason they had the cities in the first place were factories. And now, guess what? So, I remember a time in our history when there was Best Buy as opposed to cheapest. And that was Snap-on and, Craftsman and whatever, but that's all changed. And today, there is no such thing as Best Buy. No DeLorean, no concepts of a 280Z like I drive, made with steel. This is crazy days with plastics. And now there are life forms that are thriving in our nuclear cesspools of Chernobyl and Fukushima. This black slime mold is everywhere. And now we're finding black mold everywhere. Guessing we're being terraformed as we speak. I'm kidding. But there's no way not to think of it like that, because it's attacking all of our marble and statues, and it's everywhere. We're right now going through seasonal changes in the 1,000-year change, not 100-year.
I was staying at the Marriott Marquis in Times Square. This is about 20 years ago, 95, 96 or so. And down at the bottom of the hotel was, I believe, well, it doesn't matter. There was an explosion. One of the power transformers had blown up. It looked like, from where I was, I heard it too as well. It looked like a little mini nuke, right? Anyway, the power that was the power to the hotel, and we didn't have power inside the hotel for about 5 days. I'm staying on the the 70th floor, no joke, overlooking Times Square. No water in the hotel for 5 days. No showers. No toilets, no nothing. They had to deliver bottled water to all of the rooms that you had to fill up the toilets with. I'm not making this up, but we had no showers. And talk about shutting down and what it was like to experience something like that, and how they had limited power to things after about 24 hours, but still no toilets and no running water.
Well,
but yeah, it was nuts.
Yeah.
It was nuts. It was
So
absolutely
there
crazy.
was an attack on the Santa Barbara grid. It was taken down by some military in an attempt to have no loss of life or anything, but to just show everybody. And there's a video out on that, on the Santa Barbara grid collapse, and just exactly what happens next in Hollywood and Santa Barbara. And I have to tell you, people are not emotionally prepared. On Netflix, there is a series that's called Remote Survivor. They have 6 individuals that are like you. They just pick you up and they drop you in the middle of the Olympic rainforest, and you have a camera, and I'm watching from some cozy place saying, there's your water, there's your food. Okay, so the 2 people that failed was because they had everything in front of them and they couldn't do something. And like one example was the guy, okay, it's going to be -5 today at night tonight. It's going to get down below freezing, and you're going to need to bury yourself in the dirt so that you stay warm. So the guy spends half the day making this very cool little underground dig with, branches and trees and everything. And when it gets time to crawl in, he can't because he's got claustrophobia. That's how it's going to play.
Right.
And that's out in the wilderness. If you're in town, you can count on Lord of the Flies. And you can count on that. And that's your mob consciousness and chaos rules. And the first things that are going to go for you are your drugs and your money, which is useless, and things of that nature. The smartest weapons of choice is ammonia. And it's not like pepper spray. It's way better. If you have a rabid dog coming at you and you squirt it in the face with ammonia, that dog will never come into anybody again. That's how it works. And ammonia, after the stores have been rifled down to the shelves are empty, you'll still have bleach and ammonia on the shelves because most people don't recognize it as weapons. And all you have to do is get a little water pistol with holy water, and you can take out vampires. I'm kidding. Ammonia is a thing that every woman should be carrying in our purse with this nonsense of interracial refugees.
Well, what do
like
we
that.
do? What do you do if you're like, if you have a family home like I do, which has a minimal backyard, 10 feet by 10 feet? You have nothing. I mean, so how do you get a lifeboat out of something, or somebody that lives in an apartment?
Cheers, where everybody knows everybody. You know that song.
Right.
At the end of every street was a bar. There's your Cheers. Neighborhoods by neighborhood. That's Red Dawn, and that's the way it is. You get to know who you're in the bunker with, and where you live has to do with habitat. Will determine what kinds of foods you're going to eat, what kinds of people you're going to be with. And I live in the state of Jefferson down here in Southern Oregon. And so I have Ku Klux Klan, I have Posse Comitatus, I have Mormon, I have Seventh-day Adventist, dug in. And when I say that, there's tunnels everywhere.
Well, what about what if you're in an apartment or a condo?
Well, good luck with that. That's why
You're
I don't
screwed.
do that.
Right, you're screwed.
My values would prefer to be a little more self-sufficient. Look, I'll put it to you this way. Crowley in Moda, one of Moda's on interpreting Crowley's Book of the Law, talked about the idea of there's 3 basic ways of being in this world. There's the vulgar, the adept, and the exempt. And the vulgar get audited, and the adept gets money back from the government. But the exempt has a 501c3. They don't pay taxes. In other words, having access without having to be part of that club. When I was in high school, I was a jock, but I was a nerd. That means I didn't have to screw cheerleaders. I could focus on going to college. And so I didn't have to play those roles, and I'm lucky. I'm blessed. And I'm just saying, using that as a metaphor, that if you can offer something to the group, like the Aborigines do. They all take, everybody in the group has skill sets that are different and unique with each other, and they work as teams and cooperation, and they have different kinds of levels of cells. And you can take a retirement community, put a garden in the center, and put a ring around it where it's gated, and have all those old fogies out there with their black powder. Let me tell you, it works.
What did you make of the Bayer Monsanto merger that was announced this week?
We're down for it now, man, because Bayer has also now acquired the largest private army in the world with their agriculture, and they're run by a bunch of ex-Nazis.
Yes.
So good luck with that.
Is there the movement against GMOs has taken a foothold?
Good luck with that. Connecticut had to back off because Monsanto would have busted them, and the states. And the way my daughter does it, she's in accounting, works for the governor here in the state of Oregon. We're infiltrating. Okay, so you've got Monsanto. 40th down in pharmaceutical houses, I'm not talking about these other kinds of houses, just in pharmaceutical houses is Johnson & Johnson Wax. And their budget is 4 times the state of Oregon. And when I say that, the state of Oregon is $8.4 billion. Johnson & Johnson, 40th down on WAC, is 4 times that. Now imagine all those companies, and then you go across the board with Ford Motor Company and the petroleum industry, and you start running it down, and now our food, 90% of the food production has been taken over by a single company. Now that is a type of monopoly that's in your face. It was, $384 billion, and it happened just now, and nobody's talking about it really in terms of the full implication. China owns 50% of Grants Pass, Oregon right now, and BLM is the point man giving away our resources. Really, Burns, Oregon, I have Oath Keeper friends. Burns, Oregon was about the Clinton Foundation giving a Class 1 uranium mine to Russia for a bill.
Right.
Now,
but the bigger...
the whole thing is crazy, and it's on all levels, and mostly they're all truly criminals.
And ultimately here, for me, when we're talking about genetically altering what nature gave us to begin with, is going to give us a bunch of deformed children 100 years from now.
We already have them, and in fact, that's what started the movement in the first place, is the mutations. But cultivars aside, and climatization and optimization and those kinds of things, aside from all of that, it's about intent. And if the intent is not to try to make something right, but to make some money.
Don't you think if Bayer / Monsanto, they're going to change Monsanto's name? I just made that announcement earlier today, by the way. So, but if all of that was driven by money, if they see money in non-GMO, do you think that they'll back off and go back to the organic side because
get a grip? They have the largest private army in the world. Remember? And so, good luck with that. They're not going to back off. It's not going to work like that. I don't know what to say. What I have said formally is put me on payroll, and I'll go live a quiet, simple life now.
Right.
Well, I don't want to participate in this mess.
Well, that's the only way to fight back. Is just to say no with your pocketbook. I mean, that's the only way to do it.
Well, and so I buy local. I'm going to try to grow my own. I'm setting up a system where at least 40% of the food I eat, I do it myself.
Right. Which is back to the lifeboat idea.
And you've got neighbors down the street that are doing this over that, and you barter.
Yeah, exactly. Tit
for tat, and neighbors, and that's a system that I'm setting up now, where we have these lifeboats that are mostly run by charismatics and cults, because they have a belief style here and a Gangaji there, and you know what I'm trying to say. There's different charismatics out there, like a church, big churches, that want to set up a perimeter for their, like the Mormons, where they have a 1 year of food stash for everybody in the family, etc. That construct is rampant everywhere. Up in Sandpoint, it's a bunch of Quaker. Down in Asheville, North Carolina, it's permaculture. And they have innate community groups, plural, that interconnect with a floating Chautauqua balloon. Comes in with the entertainment and brings the news. And that is a system near Cloudland and so on that we're setting up as networking so that where do you want to live? What kind of a lifestyle do you need? And because they're going to be different and you're going to have options. And the way Kucinich says it is that the United States is most likely going to provincialize into 9 different provinces, kind of like Canada. You know, Florida's going to have their thing. You know, the Midwest is about corn subsidies. Out here on the West, it's pot. There are groups of states that have issues against the federal government, and then there's always Texas with their own grid. You know, I don't know how it's going to play. What I'm going to concern myself with is what I'm going to do. And if I can do it right, theoretically, that all is nonsense isn't going to matter.
We're going to take a break here in a minute. When we come back, I do want to talk about life after death, and I've got a bunch of requests for phone calls. So do you want to take some phone calls?
Sure, that'd be fine. I love that. Yes.
Yeah, we'll do that after the break too, as well. The life after. I want to get back to what you had said earlier. You said you were holding a little girl that was about to leave.
My stepdaughter was 15 when she died in my arms of leukemia. She got sick at age 12.
And
we did Dornbecker's, Ronald McDonald House, and Mercy Flights. I thought the caregiving at Dornbecker's sucked, that the medical there was more interested in their students than they were the children. And when they sent her home to die at Rogue Valley Medical Center, the service she got there was exemplary. I cannot say enough about the quality of life and dignity they tried to give my daughter before she died.
What did you?
1 hour.
Well, really quick, I want to know, what did you say to her?
I don't know. I said to her, well, Michelle, with your impatience, you're probably going to be pissed that you woke up before I did.
No, you did not. Did you really?
I did. She laughed just like you, and then died.
Oh, man. Wow.
And that incident took me from being a made man down to having to reinvent myself at age 60 because they took everything from me. And when I said I was military, I was a GS-18, which means I only get Social Security and Medicare. And as such, I had to reinvent myself, and that's when I started writing. And so everything happens for a reason, and everything leads to something better because it's what got me writing again. Nick Begich came down, brought me up to Alaska, and forced me to start writing my first book, which he published. And I started writing again, and I have discovered that is my passion.
You are the man, Dr. Richard Allen Miller. This is Fade to Black. I'm going to open up the phone lines, and we're going to talk about life after death when we come back. And your question next, 323-825-5045. This is Fade to Black. More with Ram right after this. Stay with us, everybody.
Hi, everybody. This is Rob Halford, the Metal Guard on JimmyChurchRadio.com.
KGRA Radio. Intelligent talk.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7 with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
Are you tired of brown rust stains on your toilets, sinks, and clothes? Does your water smell and taste bad? Don't live with these problems anymore. Hydrocare's revolutionary well water systems, available at Wave Home Solutions, gives you clean, healthy, great-tasting water from every faucet. They remove iron, hydrogen sulfide, sediment, and many other contaminants that are distasteful and damaging your fixtures. You'll be amazed how fresh and clean well water can be. Satisfaction guaranteed. Go to bestwater123.com. That's bestwater123.com.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7, with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
Fate or not, things are never what they seem. For the past century, forbidden subjects such as UFOs, backward engineering, human abductions, secret space programs, underground bases, suppressed free energy devices, and other fantastic notions have tested the human mind, forcing it to decipher fact from fiction. Chronicling what he calls the alternative narrative, author Brad Olson gets down to the middle of it all in his best-selling book, Future Esoteric, now released in a second edition by CCC Publishing. And now, you can get Future Esoteric at a special price, plus another free book by just using the promo code Jimmy when you check out. Just click on the Future Esoteric or CCC Publishing banner at jimmychurchradio.com. Go Beckley Teppy. Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi available, you can still listen to every minute of Fade to Black by just calling 605-562-4482. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan and no extra cost if you have unlimited minutes. Just call 605-562-4482. You can listen to me, Jimmy Church, on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Go Beckley Teppy.
You want to know a secret? I love ponies. I really love ponies. I'm serious. I couldn't stay sane without ponies to brush.
Why Fade to Black? Because you never got that pony, damn it.
This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
All right, welcome back. Fade to Black. Our guest tonight, Dr. Richard Allen Miller. Tomorrow night, Jim Mars is going to be here. Don't want to miss that. Thursday night is another Fader night with John Rappaport. And Friday and Saturday, I'm over at Coast to Coast AM. Let's get back to Richard and the phones. Hi, you're live on Fade to Black.
Hi, this is Mark from Oregon. Hi, Dr. Miller. I really have enjoyed your discussion on the tune lasers and the quantum teleportation tonight. But what I wanted to ask you about was, I remember 20 years ago when we were hearing about how we were going to be getting all these titanium tools made from titanium that was mined in the Ural Mountains. And so I started researching that and looked at it, and I realized that we're importing a huge amount of titanium, a huge amount. And I wondered if you knew if that was all going into underground bunker systems. And
I don't know. The bunkers that I've seen are not using titanium. I have a lot of titanium in my body. I'm not bionic. I'm more like a Kmart markdown special, but I don't know about the titanium. I would guess it's used in aircraft because of the strength of it. That's why it allows an airplane to fly faster than the speed of sound, is titanium.
Absolutely, I understand that.
But I don't know. I can tell you the bunkers I've seen Like here in Oregon, I see bunkers everywhere. There was one bunker here in Grants Pass that was poured with the same concrete the bridges were in 1912. That's how old these bunkers are. I'm talking about for gold mines and other kinds of things that then expanded into networks. I've seen the one in Antarctica that's natural and over a mile high, way down, and near the mantle. It's in the deep mantle. I don't know about the titanium. I never thought about that part of it. I just I have it a lot in my body.
Well,
in fact, I have titanium in every limb in my body.
Yeah,
You're definitely the right guy to mention it too. And then, and the second part of this is we do have all these bunkers, and we do have a lot of very wealthy people investing a lot of money.
And there's old missile silos, things of that nature that have been purchased by Wall Streeters and refitted. And so, there's up in Montana and Colorado, Utah, it comes to mind. They're all networked. Kucinich, when I worked for him a few years back, he took me into 4 states. There's one in Wichita that's run by Arlo Guthrie and his daughter and his granddaughter, and they all 3 came out and sang like Americana. They're everywhere. And people don't realize the networks are already semi in place, functioning farms, farmers market, and community-supported agriculture. There's a lot of grassroots movement in individual states. Up in Montana is the 1,000th garden program. You have to have 10,000 gardens before you can move to the next farm, next city, and they're spreading across Montana.
Was that your question? Was that your question, Mark?
Well, the second part of my question is, why are we building all of these? Richard, you mentioned...
Well, yeah, that's okay.
You mentioned the Blue Kachina earlier.
Yes, I did.
I was wondering, do you think that our government and our wealthy elite have advanced knowledge of Nibiru?
Well, of course they do. And in fact, that's what the Church of Rome is doing with their telescopes in Tucson. Listen, there is no question. There's historical evidence down in Popo, which, by the way, that volcano just went off. And if it blows like St. Helens did, and it may, there's 15 million people that are going to be dead in a heartbeat. Now, they're unearthing Clovis culture all over down there past Puebla into the Popo area, and I saw it. I looked at it. It's bigger than New York, more complex, and they crawled out of a cave. And so, and the Hopi and their songs. What medicine is the singing of their history to their children and grandfathers. It's medicine is your history, and it's a song. And the Hopi go back 5,000 years. That's why all the Indians key off that. There's one joke I'm watching in they're trying to move electric power into this one part of tribes, and they say, we've been here for 3,000 years without electricity. Why would we need it now? And, that is a mentat of exactly what the American Indian was about and their history of remembering. You can go to caves in France, and you see this bison on the wall, and a little, a caveman painted that. No, not really, because look at all these little dots around its eye, and they are a star constellation. And then you go over to this cave, and guess what? That star constellation is in reverse because it was witnessed from space. And so there is no question with Gerald Clark, others that have been writing about Nibiru. Stanford just came out and said, there it is. The Earth has already experienced a 3-degree orbit change and a 21-degree shift in its physical axis. The Inuit are already saying the heavens are different. And what that's doing is the weather changes. We've lost our currents, and that means there will be a reboot of a day after tomorrow. There's absolutely has to happen. The desalination of the ocean won't last long, maybe 10 days or so, but it'll go down to minus 100 degree Fahrenheit. It'll be like being on Mars. And for a minute, as everything reboots, And I don't know what's going to happen first. I can tell you there are certain things you can prepare for, and going into a bunker is only half the answer. Greg Bear has written a book called Epoch, where the mantle changes. That's 100 miles. That means nothing on Earth lives. And aliens in his science fiction book show up at the last stage and take 144,000 up into space to witness the death of Mom. And it's a metaphor. And I'm telling you that what is about to happen with the second galaxy or solar system coming through our solar system very quickly is going to be, I have no idea how that's going to play. And I can tell you that Joseph Campbell said, quote, that when you see the kingdom of the Father on earth, the apocalypse has already occurred. It is perpetual in its potential. This is an opportunity, not fear or faith. Faith and fear are actually the same thing, like a white and black hole. And they're both illusions. What's real is the integration of those two things in the moment. And if you prepare yourself in that regard, now you have what made you God's favorite, an opportunity for choice. And Zen Gardner has written about that, you know, the last grand illusion, where you have this tunnel of light and all your friends are down at the end waving at you, or you have the light itself. I enjoyed that movie. What was it called? Mindstorm?
Yes.
They're watching that woman die and what she's seeing, and the imaging that they did in that movie is very close to accuracy of what I experience when I go home to Sachkhand. I meditate and I leave my body. They call that soul travel, and it's called the little death, where you meditate and you lose your ego consciousness and you go back home for a moment, brief moment. And I've been doing that since 78. And when I was first initiated, you know, that man, when he looked me in the eyes, he said to me at the moment of my death that he personally would be there to take me across the abyss. Now, nobody has ever given me a bitter hallucination. And so I stay focused on what's important.
Hey, let me jump in and say thank you for the phone call, Mark.
And
sorry I got off on that.
That's
just
okay.
Put me into a memory.
It's okay.
And thank you for taking my call, Jimmy.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mark.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Hi, you're live on Fade to Black. Say hi to Richard Allen Miller.
Hello, Doctor. And hello, Jimmy.
There.
This is Cole from Alaska.
Hey, how are you, RJ?
Hey, how far up are you?
Well, I'm up in Prudhoe Bay, sir.
I've been inside the Arctic Circle, and my friend Nick Begich is in Chickaloon.
Oh, yeah.
I know that song, man. I've been up into Fort Yukon.
What have you
I've been listening to the show, Jimmy. This is a great show, but I wanted to share something with the doctor, just get his opinion of something, because this will give me chills, actually, when he's talking about this last half hour, particular last 10 minutes even. But he mentioned the Inupiaq. When I was a police officer in Point Hope, Jimmy,
yes,
I went over to visit a woman that was dying, an elder woman, and her husband, his name was Frank, walked me out to my patrol vehicle afterwards. Now, Point Hope is 1,000 people. There's 7 miles of road. And the Inupiaq people have a lot, or Inuit people, whichever you want to call, have a great deal of insight in what's going on. He mentioned it just a few minutes ago. And when they say something, you pay attention.
Correct. That's correct.
Yes. Now, this is something that happened to me. When he walked me out to the car, we stood outside talking, and he just stopped for a minute, got silent, and pointed south. And this guy was in his 70s then. He said, my grandfather pointed south when I was a little boy and told me that one day millions of people will come this way to escape the Great Fire. What's your opinion of that?
There you give me chills. Prudhoe Bay. I have been up there and run with antelope. Believe it or not, on mush. Okay. I don't know. Bert Bolin, University of Stockholm, Sweden, Nobel Prize winner, says there is going to be a physical pole shift, the likes of which will change entire continents. The FEMA went through here last year talking about, quote, the big one, end quote, off of Crescent City at 8.4 that will drop the entire shelf starting up in the Aleutians all the way down to Peru. And that fault line, there's a map, you can look at it. If you go to Future Map of America, and do the Chet snow map, that map is the one that the Navy and the military key off of as most likely. Doesn't mean it's right. There's Scallion and others, but that's the one the military uses. And I don't know. I have sought bedrock, and I'm, according to that map, the new waterfront at Grants Pass. I don't know. Right now, we can already see what's happening in Oklahoma. And, I mean, they're underwater. And nobody is talking about that.
Thank you for the call, RJ.
You bet.
Yeah,
thank you, Jimmy, and thank you, Doctor. Really enjoyed it.
Yeah, he's correct about the Inuit. The Inuit are just like Hopi. There's a lot of history there.
Well, they were first, to be honest with you. They were first. Hey, RJ, thank you for the phone call, brother.
You bet. Bye-bye.
Hi, you're live on Fade to Black. Say hi to Richard Allen Miller.
Oh, hi, Dr. Ram, and hi, Jimmy, sir. Thank you both to you. So like being in the preparedness stage, I know Jimmy and you and I are both in Southern California. Do you think they might do like a 9.5 earthquake to get us into that mode? Iron martial law, a few other things. Because I heard about the Central America, was it New Madrid?
The New Madrid. What was your name again?
It's John from L.A.
Okay. Hey, John, thank you for the phone call. And I was going to ask Dr. Miller about this exact subject. And I want to thank you in advance for the phone call. Great question. And Dr. Miller, the thing is, here in Southern California, we, after every earthquake, right, after every time it happens, we go out and we start to prepare for the next one, and then we just forget about it and we move on, right?
Yeah.
Here in Southern California, I've watched the run on the supermarkets. I've seen it happen. They've been emptied out in hours.
Yeah.
And here in Southern California, where life is fast, it's quick, it's expensive, and people are focused on their lives and just trying to survive day to day without the earthquakes. But if something really bad happens here, what can we do, if anything at all?
You're going to need to seek high ground. There will be tsunami. There will be fault lines that break and shift in big slides right down into the shelf because L.A., for example, is hollow underneath with caverns, and any earthquake is going to cause that to just collapse. That you already know about the caves under L.A., correct?
Yes, of course.
Okay, well, what do you think that's going to do in an earthquake, a real one?
Yeah.
Okay, so that answers that part of it. Now, what do you think it's going to do when Hawaii goes up and down and breaks into three pieces, the big island? What do you think that's going to do to L.A.?
Right. The tsunami.
Okay, then you have the grid going down because that takes out everything. And you got nuclear power plants that are not being able to be correctly shut down, kind of like Fukushima.
Yeah, right here on the coast.
So where do you want to live?
I want to live where you live.
Well, here's your hat with your hurry. That's the way we are up down here, man.
Yeah,
you can tell how long someone's been in this area from L.A. by the way they drive.
You remember the Frank Zappa song, Going to Montana Soon? You remember that song?
Yeah.
Hi, you're live on Fade to Black. Say hi to Richard Allen Miller.
Richard Allen Miller, you're completely awesome, sir.
I thank you. Are we over? Is that the show?
Yeah.
Oh, 9:30. Oh, yeah. I forgot what time we were.
I love your
thank
laugh.
You, sir.
And,
Yeah.
I just want to throw.
We never talked about death, but you know what?
Where you want.
Okay, hold on.
I can say this. That that means we've got another story for another time, children.
Yeah. No, I'll get you to hang on for overtime. What's your question for Dr. Miller?
Oh, okay.
Yes.
So you mentioned, I heard you earlier in the show. Sorry I didn't hear the details of what you said, but I want to ask you: have you tried ayahuasca or DMT? And can you talk about?
Yes. Here's my problem with ayahuasca. The ayahuasca movement with Daime Church and the others is that they're bickering with each other on whose formula is real.
Okay.
And how spiritual can that be? The old Brujos forms out of Brazil and other places in the earlier years were much different than the gameplay for money today. I've been down to Daime Church. I've done ayahuasca rituals. It's charismatics. They want to get laid. I'm not impressed at all. However, dimethyltryptamine is the chill that goes up and down your spine, that thing that goes, that place, and you can generate that just with your mind's eye. And I'm going to suggest you try some little experiments with Tantra and the so-called biological function of the third eye. That's a paper I wrote way back in military days as an exercise for regenerating nerve tissue in the body. And so ayahuasca is basically a toxin like LSD. And what happens is your body freaks out, breaks that down into salts, and then the next 20 hours of reaction, or in N-N hyphen dimethyltryptamine, it'll last for 2 days, that kind of thing. Basically, is your own body's chemistry. And what you're doing with a one-time only type of thing is trying to jumpstart your own brain production. But you can do it just with your mind's eye. And in fact, if you do it that way, it's like you've got more direct conscious awareness of releasing it and not, and the levels. You can't get there from here kind of thing is not true at all. And when you do that with the AHA drug, that's lysergic acid amide, now you can have a close encounter with God and have a breakthrough, which is literally changing the structure of water in your body as a resonant cavity oscillator. You can change reality by doing these things.
Now, let me
ask why they're doing it. Sir.
What's that?
Is God an extraterrestrial?
Which means in the Kabbalah, yes. In the Kabbalah, there's the veils of Isis, Ein Sof, and Ein Sof. I think there's a hierarchy of gods, and Bob Dylan nailed it best, that everybody's got to serve somebody. So I'm sure that God's got a boss. Yahweh up to Yad-Heh-Vah-Heh, and it goes on downhill from there. The Colburn Bible talks about that hierarchy that the Christians do not.
I haven't gone back and read the Colburn in a while. I need to go
there
back.
There it is. Read it and weep.
Yeah, I need
and
to
that's the one that was used by Mark Luke, and so there it is. And the Sefer Yetzirah, the Book of Formation, was used to relate the use of words and sounds for concepts in changing space-time.
So you don't think that?
Well, consultation, sir.
Well, hold on.
Sorry.
It's my turn. So you're saying that the Colburn Bible wasn't a hoax?
Oh no.
How so?
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. Yes. Yes. Just like the King James version of the Bible, yeah, politically. But no, the Colburn Bibles existed. There were manuscripts that were taken from antiquity, just like today.
Right. I mean, look, I don't want to offend anybody by saying this. I thought, this is my impression, because I read as much of it as I could. I probably read all of it, and I've gone back many times and brushed up on it. I always considered it, and please don't, or do take this on.
No. Yeah.
Entertainment.
Most of it all is just written by men.
Right. I considered it entertainment.
Yes, as a Bible, because it's not about the written word. It's about your response to it. The answer is not out there. It's in here. And every single person that I've met has their own basic religion.
Sure.
The only reason they can glock together in these weird forms is to play baseball and to reinforce their values.
Right,
but truthfully, values are tools. They're not absolutes. If you had been born in India, you wouldn't have been a Christian. So that part's arbitrary. So what it is if you were this is one of the protocols I train SEALs, how to change a belief like you would a pair of clothing. Now I can make their mission their purpose, where by definition they can't fail.
Well, it's well written, the Colburn, no doubt about it. I mean, it comes from a pretty intelligent place. Okay, I think you just asked if Dr. Miller did consultations. Was that your question?
Yes, I did. Yes. Thank you.
Well, I can always, play broken wing and always use incomes, and I'm cheap, inexpensive. Okay. Sure, I do consulting. I'm doing workshops. I do, in October 1st, Matt Stein and I are going to be in Kansas City talking about, the urban survival skill workshops. Norman Cantwell will be there. This monster guy that I've never seen anybody so big in my life. Cooler, the real Dalton from Roadhouse. These survival things, Randy Curley puts them on all over the country. There's one in Pensacola and another one in Huntsville. This one in Kansas City, Matt and I will be there with Vincent Finelli, that I do national radio with. And I have to say, this is a good place to begin your journey for sovereignty. And sovereignty is when you are exempt, not a vulgar or adept, but exempt status. That's Master of the Temple. In Masonry, it's grade 7. And you're aspiring towards sovereignty, where your water is at least covered, with a toilet and a bath, and have backup. Like a well. If you had a well, you put a swing on it and with a hand pump or a bicycle.
Right.
So you can pump it out of the ground if the power's out.
Right. I want to thank you for the phone call.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. You're an amazing wealth of knowledge and inspiration.
Thank you. Yeah, you bet.
There you go. And now look, we're gonna head towards a break here. I'm gonna get you to do some overtime because we never did talk about life after death. We just took a bunch of phone calls and we never got to it.
And how would we do that? Will Robin save Batman? Stay tuned, Bat fans. Same Bat channel, same Bat time.
And with that, we'll go ahead and take a break now. I want to remind everybody, just go to richardallenmiller.com. All of his information is there. All of his books are there. And if you need to contact him directly, you can also do that too as well. He is the absolute best. I just talked him into overtime. So I'm going to do a break now so he can't say no. When we come back
it's an encore.
You're the best, Ram. When we come back after this break, we're going to talk a little life after death with Richard Allen Miller. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. This is Fade to Black on the Game Changer Network and KGRA The Planet. You can follow me at JChurch Radio, and you can follow Richard at DocRamCom, at DocRamCom. We'll put it out there right now on Twitter. We'll be right back.
Vivica Fox here, and you are listening to my boy, Jimmy Church, on JimmyChurchRadio.com.
Despite popular opinion, reading a book will not make you smarter.
But listening to Jimmy Church will.
Does your basement or crawl space have a damp, musty smell? Well, watch out. That's a sign of too much moisture and not enough ventilation. And that can mean increased mold growth and the buildup of harmful toxins and gases. Don't bother with a dehumidifier. It just circulates the same unhealthy air. Now there's a better way to remove these dangers and odors. It's with the computerized Wave Moisture Control Unit that reduces moisture and expels pollutants.
We replaced our old dehumidifier with the Wave unit, and in only 3 weeks, our basement is dry and the musty smell
smell is gone.
Wave units require no maintenance, no buckets of water or filters, and costs only pennies a day to run. Breathe better, live healthier with an affordable, no-maintenance Wave unit. Call 888-618-WAVE, 888-618-WAVE, or visit mydryhome.com. mydryhome.com.
Ride the wave. Wave Home Solutions for a healthy, comfortable home.
What's up, Fadernauts? Studio Dome loves Fade to Black and the F2B audience so much that they have put together the ultimate stereo Bluetooth system. They've done it just for you. Man, check this out. The Studio Dome SBB2 stereo system is here. It's featuring 2 Studio Boombox 2 SBB2 wireless Bluetooth speakers, packed in its own custom hardshell case. This Studio Dome system features the very latest in stereo Bluetooth technology. The 2 full-range boomboxes are in true wireless stereo. You've got to hear this. It's amazing. It's just $129, and use the promo code JCRTWS, and you'll also get free shipping. It's simple. Just go to jimmychurchradio.com, click on the Studio Dome banner. Go Beckley Tepe.
Erica, Brittany, Gabby, and you're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com.
It's not a lifestyle we chose. We were born this way. KGRARadio.com.
This is KJCR at JimmyChurchRadio.com.
All right, welcome back. Fade to Black. Little overtime with Dr. Richard Allen Miller. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. You can follow me on Twitter at JChurchRadio. I just posted. You can follow Doc Ram at DocRamCom. It's up there on Twitter. Hashtag F2B. You will see it. It's right there. And let's get this overtime started, Richard. Life after death. What happened?
So, at the moment, as we move in time now, as we gain more information, we realize that we don't know things. We have more questions than we have answers. So at the moment of death, that immediately changes where like getting your memory back of who you are and your purpose. And then you spend going backward in time the cavitation of reliving those moments as individual cavitation balls that you can change as you become not a child, but childlike.
Okay. And is that in an instant?
I don't know. Stay tuned on that. According to my calculations, that's the yearbook they put me in when I graduated from high school. You know how they put a little ditty under your name for everybody to remember you?
Right.
Mine was, according to my calculations, ... Okay, so according to my calculations, I think there is durations involved, like right now. How long do you think we've been talking? Well, you have a chronological clock, but what about the experience of the center of the moment that you've had with me? That's where the richness lies in evolving and consciously. And once you do this back and forth, it's like that drop of water. When that drop of water hits the water, the pool, it creates a series of new balls of water as waves of water. Way, way more than a single drop. And that's where you're going.
When
it's beyond words. You can't
Right.
At this point, and as I'm writing this, I am somehow aspiring toward a way of articulating it in a manner that creates the thought form that is given to you, and then it's yours.
I read today, and this is, believe it or not, all things are connected. And we were talking about binaries and ones and zeros earlier. Did you know that you have a brand new Kindle, right? A tablet, a brand new Kindle, and then you have a Kindle, the same one next to it, but you filled up all of the memory on it, right? Okay, that's it. You download a bunch of books and you max it out. That it actually weighs more than the Kindle without its memory full. Now, it's like 1/1,000,000,000th of a gram, but it's heavier. And so when we look at things in that status with when we pass away, when we die, do that those ones and zeros and our consciousness that leaves our body, what happens to that? I mean, that's the I know
like in the movie where he goes through a black hole. What was that? Interstellar. Where he goes to a library of possible timelines and waits for the one where his daughter walks into the library because he knows that she doesn't see books being pushed out as a spooky poltergeist. She sees it as someone trying to communicate to her with cipher.
Right.
And so that's how your memory works. And you go back and forth like that drop of water until you merge with the infinite. And I'm guessing, again, as a metaphor, there are 8 neurologic circuits or cavitations. This one is by fire.
And so I guess you're answering my question then. Our memory.
That's exactly. You hit it, Jimmy. You did it right. Because in information theory, there is a theorem that says if you ask a coherent question correctly, you have enough information to answer it. You did it. You hit it just exactly correct.
And so we take that all of our questions are answered, which I'm totally hip to. I totally get that.
Then, and then you start to change the cavitation balls of the moments that had captured that knowledge.
It's
illusion.
I know. No, it's not. I don't think it's illusion.
Well, according to Castaneda, you can only experience it. You can't know it. I'm just kidding. But, you can experience it, but you can't know it. It isn't knowable. It doesn't work like that. And that is the nature of information. It's the same information and with more resolution to it. As above, so below.
Would you, if you had a choice, would you, after you pass, would you come back to Earth or would you go to another planet? Would you go occupy another body in another universe?
You mean another avatar, another golem, another?
Would you split?
Have studied the Bordeaux Tadal and went off the wheel. That's aspiring toward that because this place, consciousness, you wouldn't be alive if there weren't pain. It's about coping and the relationships. Why we're here and experiencing the dark hole rather than the white hole is because we were traumatized at birth and have no memory of what that, for me, when I came out of the womb, some person hit me and then took me off to be fingerprinted before I could even merge with my mom. Now, that's Steve Gaskins and spiritual midwifery and the way we come into this world and then with no memory of what happened, trauma of some kind that now exacerbates the karma of the difference between flowing and fighting something.
I've got this email that just came in for you, and let me hit you with this because it's great. This is from Damian. He says, has Richard ever heard of anyone being assigned an astral guardian? I had one for a while, but it has since moved on, and it felt I was fine on my own. It was a true Gaia. It told me an astral embodiment of a planet, but wouldn't tell me which. I felt it was female, and it either kept me or it was so powerful that I couldn't look at it. Felt as if my vision hit an invisible barrier when trying to look at it.
Okay, here we go on that. That's June Singer and Androgyny, and it's showtime with all that jazz. That is exactly what was happening there. He was in contact with his higher self, and that would manifest as the opposite of what he is. A female that is beyond touch. Now, that's a metaphor, but the words that he used say exactly what the sense of it was. And that, when you have 6 things in front of you, and all of a sudden one thing out of all the other 6 things, that's important, and you don't know why, that is your future timeline. And you pay attention to that, and that is, there's a book by Stephen Kaplan Williams called the Jungian Senoi Dream Manual. I recommend that as a basic textbook to start honest journaling like Ira Progoff would recommend, because this is how you begin dialogue with your higher self. And once you start that path, you have now embarked on the distinction between intent and purpose.
When's the new book going to be done?
That's called pathworking, by the way.
When's the new book going to be done?
Well, let's say the encyclopedia just went up today. That's why I'm doing it, Jimmy. I have a whole host of books, the Marshall Papers, Spook Central, and the SEAL reports. They're all ready for press. Pantheon is ready for press. The one I'm doing next is the Small Family Farm for the 21st Century. Each book costs $5,000. I don't have $5,000. I'm trying to do book sales and leapfrog my way into publishing. And so patrons are abound, and I'm, been very blessed in some ways with GoFundMe that I have. But really, what I'm after is getting this out, because I have lots more where that came from. My areas of I'm a polymath, and as such, in agriculture, there's nobody like me. I have 360 PDFs on specific crops, on how to grow them. How did that happen? When I left the military, Henry Barth, the 5th richest man in the world, flew all the way over from Nuremberg, hired me on the spot, and gave me 28 farms in 4 states with deep pockets to figure out how to grow alternative crops like pyrethrum. And for the next 4 years, I did picture books with 300 acres in 4 states on 28 farms. And I know how to grow crops. I am your Huck. I'm the best field man in the world, according to Conrad Richter. I write for them out of Canada, Richters.com. Richters and Johnny Select Seed are the 2 primary places you get organic seed. You can get heirlooms and seed banks and things of that nature, but the 2 primaries that are certified and working with cultivars and things like that would be Johnny's in Maine and Conrad Richter, Richters of Canada. They were the first organic movement out of Toronto in the 1950s with Otto Richter. And so I've been writing a long time. I was one of Chuck Walter's pallbearers. I've written books for Acres USA and lots of articles. Now I'm just a grumpy old man with a vision on how farming has changed to include little things now that I didn't in my previous writings, like herbal pharmacies. If you need a blood thinner, you're not going to want to use warfarin. What are you going to do? And when the pharmacies close down and you have heart condition, what do? That's native plants. And when I tell you that, that's where all the drugs used to come from until Germany, who controlled the raw materials, went to war. That's why we invented Valium from valerian sulfate, valerian root. all of that original chemistry, Bayer aspirin, that's acetylsalicylic acid. You find that in aspen leaf and aspen bark. But the thing is, in aspen leaf and aspen bark contain natural buffers. So, when you do original German target chemistries like certified, standardized extracts, that's target chemistries. You're going to cordyceps, and you want that cordyceptin, but the other polysaccharides that are in there blend with each other, and the product metabolizes better, in my opinion, with the human body from natural sources, and why I call that a full spectrum rather than target chemistries or standardized extract. These are the different ways that medicine is going, and I'm writing on agriculture on how to find these things in native plants. The Indians will say that if you run into a toxin like poison oak, right next to it grows back in fern, counter strain. So nature has provided a garden. Dimethyltryptamine can be found in crabgrass. Now, that's a very sophisticated neurotransmitter, and is almost as if that plant, crabgrass, is not so much a native plant as it is a messenger from God.
Thank you so much for all that you do, Doc, and you know that I mean that, and the audience loves you, and when you come on this show, it's like the best time ever, and
thanks. Well, it's my laugh.
Thank you for all that you do, and I can't wait to get you back on. And there's always a ton to talk with you about. But as soon as you get the next book finished, let us know as well.
I'll knock on your door. You betcha.
I know you will. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for your time, too. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Dr. Richard Allen Miller. Go to richardallenmiller.com. He is the best. All of his books are there. And you can follow him at DocRamCom on Twitter. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. I'm going to take a quick break. I'll be right back. Stay right there.
Way out here, we listen to Jimmy Church.
You're listening to Fade to Black.
Always on the edge of the hottest alternative talk. Jimmy Church with Fade to Black. KGRARadio.com.
¿Qué tal, mis amigos? Yo soy Mario Carson, el tiburón, y los invito para que escuchen a mi buen amigo Jimmy Church Radio. ¡Claro que sí!
Attention CPAP users. Stop the insanity and torture of your CPAP mask. Don't you hate the skin irritation and terrible leaks? Jump on the CPAP Pro train, invented by an actual CPAP user that became so frustrated with CPAP masks. Are you ready to try something new? With absolutely no straps or headgear? Go to nomask.com and get the best night's sleep ever. Free to Medicare patients. Go to nomask.com. That's NOMASK.com.
If your home has hard water, then it's likely that limescale is clogging your pipes, damaging your appliances, costing you hundreds of dollars each year. You can eliminate limescale in the entire house with HydroCare products available at Wave Home Solutions. Easy and efficient with no maintenance, no salts, no chemicals, and no coils. And you can buy with confidence from Wave Home Solutions. Performance guaranteed. Just go to bestwater411.com. That's bestwater411.com.
These statements have not been evaluated by the FDA. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. Work with your doctor when taking medications. Make Protovite part of your healthy lifestyle.
HealthForLiberty.com is your source for Protovite, a powerful nutritional supplement that's a true breakthrough for your health. Poor digestion makes it nearly impossible to absorb the nutrition your body needs. Protovite is a liquid multi-nutrient formula with patent-pending absorption technology and the highest quality ingredients to nourish every cell in your body.
My name is Sandra White. 6 weeks ago, when I started taking Protovite, I was on 14 medications, from everything for blood pressure to fibromyalgia. In the first 10 days, my blood sugar dropped 50 points, and my fibromyalgia pain is gone. And so was 12 of the 14 medications that I was taking. I'm 66, living life and loving it.
Go to healthforliberty.com right now. That's healthforliberty.com.
Thank you, Protovite, for giving my life back.
You are listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
Oi, oi, I'm Reese Evans. You're listening to Jimmy Church. This is Revolution. The revolution will not be televised. The revolution is on radio. Ciao.
Welcome back. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Now I know why my schnauzers are in the backyard eating grass all day long. I knew something was up. I had heard it was, for their digestive system. No. They are on that DMT trip. Check this out. I got a bunch of stuff here that we've collected, and I'm about to flip you guys out on a bunch of stuff. Number one, a cafeteria employee for a Pennsylvania elementary school quit her job after she was forced to take a hot lunch away from a child whose parents had fallen behind the $25 limit for school lunches. Her name, Stacy Koltiska. She says she resigned from the Wylandville Elementary in the Cannon-McMillan School District last week because she had to deny 2 children hot lunches under the new strict policy that was enacted to tackle a $100,000 debt built up by unpaid lunch fees. Under the new rules, students from kindergarten through 6th grade will not be served hot lunches if their parents owe more than $25 to their meal accounts. Instead, the children will be given a cold sandwich, fruit, and milk. Humiliating children like that. But yet, we can go build an aircraft carrier. Sickening. I mean, for real. What, if I was president, that'd be the first thing I would sign off on. Free lunches. All the elementary, junior high, high school, free lunches. I mean, that's it. I mean, seriously. We throw more food away every single day in this country. It's ridiculous. We have too much food. Too much food. The FBI didn't violate its own policies back in 2007 when an agent impersonated an AP journalist, check this, while entrapping a high school teen in a bomb threat case. This is according to the Inspector General probe. Now, however, new policies have been instituted since. The disclosure of the agent's impersonation caused an uproar among the press, prompted a lawsuit, and led to the policy changes, but not so fast. Don't get all excited. A report by the Justice Department's Inspector General released last Thursday said the FBI recently put in place new policies, meaning top-level approval is required before agents can pose as journalists. Did you hear what I just said? It called the changes an important improvement over past practices. Did your BS meter go off yet? Under the new policy, FBI agents may only represent, post, or claim to be members of the news media when authorized by the FBI Deputy Director after consultation with the Attorney General as part of an undercover operation review. The policy expressly prohibits FBI agents from engaging in such activity if it is not part of an undercover operation. How do you like that? I know you're freaking. Now, the good news. The United States government said last week that it has no plans to euthanize a large share of more than 45,000 wild horses and burros removed from lands mostly in the United States West, after an advisory panel's proposal to kill some of the animals sparked outrage. The U.S. Bureau of Land Management, that's right, the BLM officials, said that they struggle to find people to adopt a growing number of wild horses and burros, which cost the agency millions annually to maintain in corrals and pasture lands. The National Wild Horse and Burro Advisory Board last Friday recommended the Bureau consider euthanizing the animals that cannot be adopted or selling them to companies that might slaughter them. But Tom Gorey, a spokesman for the Bureau, said that, and in an email, that the agency will continue its current policy of caring for unadopted or unsold wild horses and burros and will not sell or send any animals to slaughter. There you go. That's my good news for the day, because check this one out. China has launched its second space lab, taking one step further in Beijing's plan to establish a permanent space station. Yeah, you heard me right. I said second space lab. More on the first one in just a bit. A long-range March 2F rocket blasted off successfully last week from the Jianquan Satellite Launch Center in the Gobi Desert, carrying the lab up known as Tiangong 2, which translates to, by the way, heavenly vessel. A spacecraft will ferry a two-man crew to the lab next month in October, China's first manned mission since 2013. The astronauts will remain in the lab for a month, where they will be carrying out, various experiments related to whatever, medicine, physics, and biology. But Tiangong 1, China's first try at a permanent space station, is currently spinning out of control. They have lost all contact with it, and it's expected to crash somewhere on Earth next year. Because they have zero contact or control, nobody, and I mean nobody, not NASA, not China, nobody knows when and where this is going to happen. Now, normally, if you've got some sort of control over it, you can direct it over an ocean. Right now, there's zero contact, zero control. It is completely on its own. And it's going to re-enter the Earth's atmosphere sometime in 2017, and it's going to crash somewhere. China did say, well, most of it is going to burn up in the atmosphere, right? Well, that's the stuff that'll burn. The big chunks won't. There you go. Tiangong 1 is coming back to Earth. All right, back to this. The Earth lost 10% of its wilderness in the last 2 decades. 10% of its wilderness. The planet lost roughly 1.2 million square miles of wilderness over the last 20 years, equivalent to 1/10 of its total stock. Now, this is according to a new study in Current Biology. It's just been published. Calling the pace of land clearing catastrophic, researchers from the Wildlife Conservation Society and elsewhere identify the Amazon and Central Africa as the major target areas. The Amazon has suffered a 30% loss since 1992, while at the same time period, Central Africa has seen a 14% drop in its wild areas. So much wilderness has been removed, with wilderness being defined as ecologically and biologically intact regions with little human presence, that only about a quarter of it remains throughout the planet. There you go. This is Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Got to say special thanks to the one and only Dr. Richard Allen Miller. Fade to Black's executive producer is Rita Kamarian. Show is produced by Hilton J. Palm, Mark D. Kovar, LJ3, Renee, Mark Dunbar, Jonas. Thank you, Dennis. Thank you, Bob. Announcers are Steve Harder, Gene Vito, and Mark D. Kovar. Fady by Dale. Webmaster is Drew the Geek. Music, Doug Aldrich. Intro, Spaceboy, spaceboymusic.com. Fade to Black is produced by KJCR for the Game Changer Network, and syndication is KGRA The Planet. Thank you to everyone that called in tonight. Great questions for Dr. Ram. This broadcast is owned and copyrighted 2016 by Fade to Black and the Game Changer Network. It cannot be rebroadcast, downloaded, copied, or used anywhere in the known universe without written permission from Fade to Black or the Game Changer Network. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Tomorrow night, Jim Mars, right here. You can follow me on Twitter at JChurchRadio. Email is jimmy@jimmychurchradio.com. Till tomorrow night, everybody be safe. Go Beckley Teppy.